Board of County Commissioners meeting. As the chair of the commission, I guess I'm tasked with at least getting us started, but there is, between the five of us, it is not a formal VOCC meeting, so we will not be taking minutes and will not obviously be deciding and voting on anything today. This is strictly an educational opportunity for the Board of County Commissioners. I have determined that this is a workshop. It is not a public forum. You are invited guests, certainly welcome to be here. There will not be an opportunity for public comment or input. And if we deem necessary, the commissioners could schedule a public forum to get public input. From where I sit as the chair of the commission, that's something that the commissioners would have to decide at their next meeting. We can't decide to do that today, but we meet again on Wednesday. We could put that on the agenda and make a decision at that time. So with that being said, I would ask Mr. Prince if he would like to at least start us with the Pledge of Allegiance, even though we're not a formal board meeting.
For that honor, welcome. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. In kind of prepping for this workshop, gentlemen, I did not convey this idea to you, but I want to bounce it off of you now. I was hoping to get a little bit of structure at the front end of this thing of looking at three things, and I've added some places to document that. Some of the things that we do know, unequivocally, we know this. That would be one chart. The other one would be, these are the things that we think we know. These are our suppositions. And on that board, maybe we list, if any, I'm not saying it has to be a great number of things, but then the other thing is, these are the things that we do not know as of today. Does that seem reasonable?
You're driving.
Well, not necessarily, but just bringing something to the table to start. Yeah, we can visit these off and on. We can work on them right up front. I don't have a lot of preconceived ideas. I've got a few documents on my computer that I may refer to from time to time, but if I do that, I'll tell you, hey, I'm looking at this document or whatever, some printed out stuff. But thank you for agreeing to meet with us, first of all. Appreciate that. I don't know, gentlemen, what do you think? And I say, gentlemen, all five of us. Do you have a preference? I'm throwing that out.
I'd like to say a couple of things to set the stage, and I may be changing this too, just for everybody's benefit. If you want me to do that now.
Sure, yep, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to stand because it looks like there's people that can't see or hear. I want to make sure that you understand the kind of questions that I'll be asking and what context and why I'm asking them. There's a lot of, I know, rumors going around. There's a lot of people thinking that this is a decision meeting, and it's not. You've heard Tom say that. There's a lot of wondering, are these commissioners here to learn technically what's going on? Are they able to make those kind of decisions? And Tom and I are new to the board. Yeah, we're catching up on the business plans that have been discussed in some of the meetings that we've had in the last year, and the studies that have gone on, and we've caught up on all those kinds of things. So primarily, from my point of view, I'm here to learn from a business standpoint. This Board of Commissioners is here to efficiently and legally manage your money. And it's a limited amount of money that we have in the county budget, and you all have access to that. I know it's several, $7 to $9 million per year by the year as we go along. It varies up and down. It's not a lot of money. And our primary responsibilities are to make sure the infrastructure is here for you all to help grow and all that kind of thing. And we are all about economic growth smartly. So And technically, this board's smart enough to understand most of the issues and questions technically about the system. I, in particular, have many years of actually developing and operating satellites, downlinks, comm systems for the United States Air Force, as well as for Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and those kinds of things, as well as procuring systems and doing due diligence on acquisitions that you might do to make sure it's smart and you're not going to lose money on. So right now, technically, the proposal that they have is technically sound. It's going to produce a lot better service. And oh, by the way, it's about broadband improvement. We have broadband in the valley. CenturyLink calls it broadband, and when we got it, it was pretty cool. And I was happy with 250 megabytes up, and the downlink currently is 1.5 down. What the proposal is here is many times more than that. 50 or whatever the bottom line is, Dale, on the downlink.
Well, it's 25.3.
25.3 is the minimum, right? And then with plans to move up. 25.3. That's the minimum standard the FCC's just signed up to. Think of that. That's 1.5 divided into 25. That's 20 times more, roughly, capability that you got than you have today. Really great. That's possible today also. Right now, you can go to HughesNet and find that out, and they're broadcasting the same thing. Problem is you get throttled. There's issues with it that aren't there. So what we have to balance from a business point of view is the investment we're going to make. And by the way, this is not free. There's taxpayer money involved. It's a grant. That's taxpayer money, but it's somebody else's. You think it's the whole state. Well, it's a bigger, less burden on us. So in effect, we think it's free. It's not free because once we bite the bullet to do this, the county has to maintain it. And so that you need a business plan that'll support that. And that's some of the questions that we'll be asking today is how are we going to maintain it in the future? Because we don't want to be stuck 5 years from now with a 20-year commitment and have towers that we're not going to use, except maybe we could get 6 zip line parks going or whatever, use the towers. But we don't want that to happen. We want to have broadband expanded capability. So Tom and I and Jay will be asking really probing questions to understand where we are today so we can make a decision and to decide whether we want to move forward with the grant process. Doesn't mean we're not going to move forward with broadband in the future, period. We're committed to doing that. So let's see where we go, and we'll ask a lot of great questions. And like Tom said, maybe we'll have an opportunity to if you all get more questions and they're not answered, to hit a forum later with a workshop.
Good.
So thanks.
I would just, as opening remarks, say that from my perspective as a county commissioner, it's incumbent upon me to find out as much information as I can in order to vote on any issue. Happens to be today we're talking about the expansion of broadband. We've had a couple of conversations with these two gentlemen trying to do that very thing, and we thought in due diligence that we need to do it again and hopefully to do it in a little more in-depth. We had a great workshop with these gentlemen prior to this, so I don't want anybody to think that this is the first time these guys have even talked about it. That's not the case.
Individually, we've worked with them a lot.
Yes. And so, secondly, to me, this really evolves kind of around 3 documents, if you would. The first being the Upper Arkansas Council of Governments Broadband Strategic Plan, 5-year plan. Obviously, these gentlemen were very involved in that. It's 34 pages, if you or more than that actually, but if you take that out and it was a 4-county plan. If you take Custer County out of there, you get down to 14 pages, which really is more pointed towards us than the regional. It was a regional broadband strategic plan for 5 years, but obviously we're concerned today about Custer County. Secondly, the second document obviously is the Energy and Mineral Impact Grant. We call that the DOLA grant. And then thirdly is the Economic Development Administration's grant, and that's the federal grant that's normally called the EDA grant. So when we're talking about grants today, we're talking about those 2 things. I think Bill hit one of the nails on the head that I've been hammered with over the last month. We've got to get broadband into the county, and that simply is not where we're at. We have broadband here. These gentlemen have worked tirelessly for the last several years to try to come up with a plan to expand the broadband coverage. Would that be fair to say, gentlemen? And I have tried to educate people along the way, even though I'm certainly no expert in the area, but I've tried to tell them, you need to understand, first of all, what this is about. We've got to call it what it is, and it's an expansion of the broadband capabilities that we currently have. So those are the documents that I think we're kind of dealing with today.
I would suggest there is one additional document,
Okay.
and that's the tower study.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Centerline, yes. The fourth document that we should be concerned about, that's exactly right, is the engineering study done by a group called Centerline Solutions, was done in 2017. And just quickly, gentlemen, if I may, can you give me a date on the strategic plan? I did not see a date when that was
It's on
done.
the front copy, and it's March of,
Yeah,
I think March of 15 is
I
when
had
it
it
was
pulled
delivered.
up here. Let me.
3/18 of 2015 was when it was
All
delivered,
right, thank you.
delivered and accepted.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Prince, any opening remarks, statements, questions?
Yeah, I think we have to put in perspective what we're talking about when we talk about expanding our broadband. We're not expanding anything.
True.
We're not doing this. We are not a utility. We're not going to be a utility. What we'll do is, we'll allow some towers to be put up so that utilities can come in and expand the service that we currently have. I think that what really excites me about this potential is when the towers are up, and I know there are 3 of the 6 towers are capable of handling cellular. I just want the people in our county to be able to dial 911 and get someone on the other end who says help is on its way. Cellular service is really important. I mean, we need to look at economic development. We understand that, there are pros and cons of economic development. There are those in this county that feel that economic development should go away. We don't want it. We want to be like we were 100 years ago. We also know there are people in this county that say, gosh, I want to open the new Starbucks downtown, and, we are who we are. But if we don't manage economic development, it's going to run over us. Having a low footprint of high-speed internet, which is what broadband is, of course, allows people to conduct business from their homes without having to put up big buildings and having a major footprint in the county. So, to me, this is going to boil down to a decision of what is the cost to the county of maintaining towers, because we are not a utility. What's the likelihood that a better service to provide this will come through at some point in the future? Will satellite replace towers, for example? These are the kind of answers I want to know. Also, I know since the county would be the owners of the towers, but not the utility, if the new method of handling high-speed internet came along and the towers no longer needed, is that something that the county could sell? Could they use it for something else? I mean, there are a lot of questions that come into this. But what's really important to me is we are not a business. We are a municipality. And to me, we provide service. That's what a municipality does. I don't stop by your house when we plow the snow and say your share of the cost of plowing was X. We don't do that. We provide a service to you. And while there may be some, in the end, as with every venture that is taken, there may be some question marks. If this is a service that is worthwhile to the county, I'll be in favor of it. If it's not, I won't. If we're straddled with too many unknowns, I'm going to oppose it. I'm open-minded, but I just want to remember, we're not a utility and we're a service provider. The county is. So that's all I have to say.
And that brought me up one question, because Jade put a real good point on it, and I missed it before when I mentioned it. But remember, I said it wasn't free. So in fact, we care about the business plan that they propose, and they come in. So there is going to be a cost for the service. Somebody's going to pay $60 a month, $10 a month, whatever it is. And they got to have enough providers so that we can get, in fact, make enough money so we can pay the maintenance on the road, the utility tower, etc. So in fact, it is a business that we're looking into. And what's the risk of that through time not be foisted back on you? You guys are going to own this. We don't own anything. We're managing your money. And so we want to make the right decision in terms of the risk of going forward with this. That's the whole point. So I'm excited to work with it. We definitely want more broadband, so let's get started.
One other thing, just for the good of the all, maybe everybody knows this. The Economic Development Corporation came to the county commissioners and asked them for their support of moving forward with this broadband grant. As they informed the county, we knew this, but they said, as an Economic Development Corporation, we are not a legal entity to apply for a Department of Local Affairs grant. Would you, the county, do that and be our supporting entity? And we said yes. We signed those documents and we moved forward with that DOLA grant in January. I think it was January the 10th at that meeting that we, don't quote me on that. It could have been December.
Actually, they've already been submitted.
Yeah.
All confirmed.
Yeah, we just needed to sign off and confirm that. So I wanted that to be said. Gentlemen, opening statements, comments, or are you ready to dive in, or what do you think?
I think our position's pretty clear as far as obviously supporting this. We are an all-volunteer organization. We do bring a number of years of working with this element in the state since the governor basically started the initiative to try to improve the broadband statewide. We also bring industry experience that's appropriate to, we believe, to managing this. And obviously, while not elected officials, we are citizens here, and we don't want to put the county or anybody else in jeopardy. So that's where we're coming from. I would suggest, in the category of what we know, probably as good as not, would be the 10 questions that you initially had.
Okay.
And we have some follow-up efforts that amplify what was delivered to you on February 14th
Okay.
at 12:38. There were a couple that in specific that we have had an active follow-up on. And
Thank you, sir.
Dale, you want to talk about the letters of intent that we obtained from our two lists?
Right, in previous meetings, the issue was brought up that where we had indicated that in conversations and handshake with our two incumbent providers, Seacom Wireless and Hilltop Broadband, when they went through this presentation of the 6-tower approach, and we said, these will never be built. We would not recommend they be built if we aren't going to have people live on them, because the people that live on them are going to pay monthly rental for them, which are going to offset the O&M cost that the county would incur. And so in both cases, dealing with the CEO of those two companies.
Who were they again, so everybody can hear?
Who were the individuals?
Yeah,
Or who were the companies?
companies.
Companies is Seacom Wireless.
And the
And-
CEO of CCOM, John?
Our Chief Operating Officer is John Saunders.
Thank you.
So,
And then,
Hilltop Broadband, and that's Eric, and I can look up his last name.
It's an alphabet soup.
Yeah,
he's the CEO, you said?
he's the owner
okay,
of that. And the way we presented it to them was that we needed two companies here in Custer County to provide broadband service. And that we further made it very clear to them that once this county asset was built and put in place and accepted and made available to them, that there would be some responsibility on their part that they would not be allowed to offer internet-only service. I think it's important that we differentiate between internet only. Custer County does have internet service. Custer County has very little broadband service. CenturyLink is not a broadband provider in Custer County. They are an internet service provider. And so it was made clear to them that they would have to offer. It doesn't mean that if you live in their footprint of a tower that you can't subscribe to the low-end service, but it means they have to put radio equipment in capable of meeting 25.3, and they were indicated that in 2 years we expect them to raise that to 50 by 15, and that by the 2025 the expectation is that they would raise it to 100 by 50 service. And they didn't disagree with the fact that was the curve that utilization of broadband is on, and that based on what they knew about radio equipment, that the industry is developing radio equipment within that range, as long as we developed a modular that was within 7 miles of a tower, and that's why we chose the 7-mile distance there.
So go back to what you said. You got agreement from them. They're not going to provide internet only or broadband only. What did you say? What did you say?
What I said was that when we met with them, that they were very interested in having these 6 strategically located towers, because by having them at 100 feet rather than 20 feet, it gives them a much better capability of looking over the lip of hills, which they don't do generally now. But when we explained to them that yes, that you can live on our towers, the rates will be very reasonable, but along with that comes a responsibility that they're not going to lowball their offering to 12 by 8, which is what a lot of these companies do, because they can do that with much, much less expensive equipment. That we expected them to put in the equipment that would support 25 by 3, 50 by 15, and then grow that to 100 by. And in both cases, when we shook hands with them, they said that would obviously be their plan. And you know, I will also say that when we meet with these people, this is all not just begging. We were telling them that if they didn't choose to do that, we would find a replacement, because there are other companies in this niche that would like to come into Custer County.
So did they say they would write a letter of commitment? If the towers are built, they'll do a side contract.
We have letters.
We have letters of intent from both of them here, and I will provide you a copy of that here today.
Jim, can I ask a question on that? You made a comment just a second ago that I'm a little confused about. We heard the chairman say that we have broadband. Do we have, and then you said CCOM doesn't offer broadband.
No, I didn't say that.
CenturyLink.
I said CenturyLink.
CenturyLink, I'm sorry.
They offer DSL service, which is targeted at 10-1 service. That's the DSL service. CCOM and Hilltop both offer broadband service, but there are less than 250 accounts that have broadband service in Custer County today. Doesn't mean there couldn't be more, because when they put the radio equipment in, it will serve more than the 4 or 5 or 6 that they must have to be able to afford to put more in. But when people say that Custer County has widespread broadband, that is a false statement.
That's what I'm trying to find out. So the actual broadband that's available, is it in just a small geographic area, and the purpose of this is to expand it?
No, well, the latter part is true, but the first part is it's targeted. Both CCOM and Hilltop don't necessarily have the radio equipment that will provide that level of service, 25.3 today. They do on certain towers, but generally what they do is they require a certain number. I know in my place, I have 50 by 25 service at my house, but when I went to CCOM, because they served me, and I said, I want you to upgrade your equipment to provide me, they said, we'd be more than happy to do that when you bring me a list of 6 people that are willing to subscribe, so we can afford to do that.
On this particular tower.
Right, on that tower. Otherwise, we would still be living with internet broadband. I talked to Charles. He said, yeah, put me down. And I went around and found Rick Ashwood, put him down, and found 2 or 3 others and put them down. And once we had 6 people, I went to CCOM and I said, here's your 6 customers. They will subscribe at the broadband level, get the job done.
What was the rate they agreed to pay you guys then that time? For the
25
service?
for your 25.3.
Now with a little discount, or they dropped it, it's 89 and some cents.
$89 a month for 25.3, and I pay $129 for 50 by 25.
Can we back up a little bit? You said you would provide us letters or copies of the letter of intent. Can you just thumbnail sketch what's in those? What do we know now?
What they agreed to do is in each case, they agreed that they would, once the towers were built and available, and as long as they have access and power to them, they're interested in putting their equipment and providing service off those towers in return for a fee that would be paid monthly, and they understand that these are will be 20 plus year contracts.
Okay.
And aside from charging the customer either $89, $129, or whatever their fee is, they would be leasing space on the towers, so would there be revenue coming into the county as the owner of the towers?
There will be a monthly fee charged to each of these companies for them to occupy a band on that tower. Keep in mind, these are 100-foot towers, and they will need 8 to 12 feet of space around that tower at the altitude that we choose to put them at. And for that, they will pay us
A fee.
a fee.
We don't know what they're willing to pay yet.
Well, we know what they want to pay, and they know what they want to pay. But I just don't think putting fees on the table right now. The fees will be adequate to cover the O&M costs of all the various things that cost.
How do you know that?
How do I know
You
that?
must have done it in the house. Somebody gave you a range.
Right, we have talked to sister counties that are already in this business.
I want to know what CCOM, what you think, because we're dealing with knowns here. What we know.
Yeah, that's a known. I'm giving you a known.
No, the known is, I want to know.
It's a non-known for you. That's
and
correct.
Hilltop are willing to pay.
Excuse me, but that's on question 8.
Okay.
So let's.
Well, I don't know. You brought it up. I'm just.
Well, let's
we're asking questions.
let's whip today.
Okay.
We do have agreements.
Because really, this is addressing the letter of
Right.
intents.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what that question was about.
But let me finish the question. Their intent is to sign a lease over a 20-year period?
That's what we've asked for, and that's what the letter
Okay,
indicates.
so the anticipation is that at least for the first 20 years of the life of these towers, even if they take their equipment off, they're still bound by the lease. We would still have revenue coming in to pay for the operation and maintenance of the towers, even if they're just empty. Is that right?
Well, they aren't going to sign a lease on a contract
No, assuming
and
they sign a lease.
not put radio equipment on the tower. That doesn't sound like a logical business decision to me.
I'm looking at if in 5 years from now, technology advances quickly, and we find that we could have super broadband without towers, beaming it up and beaming it down to satellites. And you've explained to me, because I've asked this question to you before. But what I'm saying is, let's just say a new technology comes along, and they abandon towers because they don't need it anymore. They have an alternate method. We're still stuck with towers that we must maintain. If they're willing to sign a lease to pay a maintenance fee or a monthly or annual fee to go on the towers, will it last for the full term of 20 years?
Contractually, it's a 20-year contract, and it would last that long. They can go out of business, et cetera.
I get
But
that.
yes, there's
I
a
get
20-year
that. We could
contract.
too.
Right.
We have 2 chairs in here. We can sure make room. Okay. What question number was that, sir?
That was 5.
Okay, thank you. All right.
I don't mean to be jumping around, but this is, to me, the most
Let me stay
important
on
point.
topic on that one.
We've got additional information to
Okay.
mitigate that concern.
Let me amplify I'm not moving off that question yet. they have to be competitive in the world market to get a customer base. They're going to charge them a fee for their service to our people in the county. They're going to compete with satellite providers.
No, they aren't, sir.
Why?
It's,
Because that service is available today,
Okay.
or later on there'll be new ways to get, somebody.
we are in the situation that we've got now with limited CenturyLink, DSL, and no cell phone service and stuff because we aren't a competitive business case for these corporate companies that are interested, and they have to justify everything they do to stockholders and such like that. It reflecting back, when did we get telephones or electrical power stuff here? This is a situation of
I understand. Let me repeat this differently. The actual person is me, the consumer. These people out here. Today they have options. They can get service better than CenturyLink is providing right now if they want to. And in fact, some do. HughesNet is an example, which is a 25 by 3 service today. Now, for $60 a month, I'm going to quote it, right? So it's the same. So all I'm asking is, and Jay brought it up, is that as time goes on, capitalism is capitalism. The key technology is bringing fibers, and you get a lot of stuff. But also, technology on the satellites is improving. Elon Musk is putting up a bunch, as you know, at low Earth orbit to cover more area with less power, and that's going to compete. Joe Blow can get it for $25 a month, and Custer County's utility service is going to charge them $60 because that's what CCOM needs to stay competitive to maintain that. That's all I'm asking is
How do we not? We have to remain competitive in order to be profitable enough to get the maintenance covered and not be held hostage to that. That's all I'm asking. So
Let me just address these issues here. There are 6 different ways that you can get internet service. Only 3 of them qualify for broadband. We have landline provisioning, and that includes copper wire, and that's DSL. In the cities, that qualifies for broadband, doesn't qualify out here. Fiber optic cable, fiber to the home, fiber to the business, doesn't exist out here, won't exist out here because of the topology, geography, and demographics. Cable TV doesn't exist in Custer County. So none of those are viable in Custer County, nor are they going to be viable for the foreseeable future. Moving on, we have wireless. Fixed wireless and cellular wireless, or often called mobile wireless. Fixed wireless meets the definition of broadband at 25.3, a terrestrial service to provide service, full-time service. Cellular or mobile wireless is excluded from broadband definition by the FCC because it's not a full-time service. Even though the speeds have gone up to met that, there's more requirements than just speed. And the last one is satellite internet. And satellite internet, by definition of the FCC, does not meet the definition of broadband. And so
explain that.
For a couple, 3 reasons. Number one, it's not a terrestrial service. Number 2, up until recently, it didn't meet the speeds. And the third thing is the latency issue does not work well for interactive real-time conversations, both data and voice. And so for the foreseeable future, satellite, while it'll always be there, and it's known in the industry in which I come from as a service of last resort and an emergency service. That's what it's known as, and that's what it's defined by the country in. So those are the services right there. And when the strategic plan was done, not by us, we went to outsiders and hired them and said, tell us what Custer County should do. They came back with a recommendation and defended it with justification that fixed wireless is the technology of choice for Custer County, and that's what you should build to.
Okay, that's great. I understand. The consumer doesn't care about definitions. If they can get 25 by 3 today and get the downlinks and the uplinks, then why wouldn't they?
If I could find one happy satellite user, I'd like to meet them.
Are you guys happy with your DirecTV?
Different issue.
I'm not, no, I just want to, I want to understand your
Different issue.
downlinks.
Love my DirecTV.
Yeah.
It's broadcast. It's not interactive.
Understand.
And we need to back up just a little because we do have people in the audience. I think it's fair. I had sent an email to Mr. Bogle and outlined 12, I think there was 10 or 12 questions that I personally as a commissioner had. It's up to you. Yeah, you'd like to do that. I just don't want you to have to sit back there and be in the dark. What in the hell are they talking about these 12 questions?
Yeah.
So I will try to be cognizant of the fact that you're here for a reason. And so
Make copies.
we have a copy of the Centerline study. We're good. We have a copy of the DOLA grant and the EDA grant. I have a question about the EDA grant. Is this the entire grant?
No, that's the unofficial. When you deal with EDA, they don't want you to put it in their system until you've created a casual copy for them, sent it to them, they review it, which we did just this last
This is the
week.
casual.
And then we've been cleared to now go on their online database and enter it directly.
Okay, all right, perfect. So that took care of 1, 2, questions 1, 2. Question 3, and I understand this, if you gentlemen take the position of, we're not quite ready to divulge that information. I get that. I wanted to look at that as a scapegoat manner of trying to get out of some information. But a lot of people have come to me and said, Tom, who in the world are these landowners for these 6 towers? Have they committed? Have we talked price? Have we talked easements? Have we, you know what I'm saying? I've had those questions asked of me, and obviously I can't answer those. Maybe you guys can't answer those. I don't know. But that is one of the questions.
We are not withholding any information. And in fact, in the report, it pretty well details at each of those sites, and in addition to the 6 sites, how much progress was made with the landowners. And it was from none, because they were non-resident owners, to casual conversations. But that definition, in fact, a couple of the sites have alternate sites, just in case we find people that don't want to host it. And
With one exception, and that was the guy in Rosita said that we could have his land if we'd start tomorrow. That's how bad he
Yeah,
was.
got it. And I've always thought from day one that shouldn't be a huge factor because surely there are people that feel that
And
way.
the sites that CCOM and Hilltop use now, more times than not, it's kind of a barter situation. They're provided broadband support for having it on the residents. Now, obviously, we're going to be putting bigger towers up than what the CCOM and Hilltop have got currently.
So what we,
And pardon me, but one other thing. Number one, we've made a conscious decision. That's part of the contracted cost included in our grant request. And there are going to be some difficult situations with landowners and such, and as far as negotiations and such. And we deemed that it was better for an outside subcontractor to provide that service to us and y'all in turn, rather than us being involved and being hated forever on an individual
The
case.
service for what? The actual leasing or the
Yeah, the negotiations.
negotiation on it and all that
Yeah.
stuff?
so because believe me, I'm gonna have to turn around and answer somebody after today's meeting. Can you give me any names of local landowners today? Are you comfortable with doing
Any-
that? That
any
have
we can.
committed to any one of these 6 sites? That's where I'm getting hammered. And if you can't, that's fine. I just need
I
to
mean,
know.
I can take you to the land and show you that, and I can show you the guy we talked to, but do I remember the guy's name that we shook hands with and introduced ourselves to? Not me.
Okay,
Well,
okay. We've got the launch lats on them.
But we also need to understand how it works in this industry. And this gets back to subject matter expertise, but since we all feel capable of handling this, when you are looking to locate a cellular tower or another tower, through a series of computer modeling, you pick an area. We have a V&H coordinate for each of these 6 towers, and that lives on somebody's property. And Centerline Solutions made an attempt to contact the people by coming to their county here and finding out who owns that land at that time. Now, I can assure you that of the 6 towers that we've identified, at least one of them is going to say, not in my backyard. And the way that works in the industry is you go a quarter mile away, you go a half a mile away. If you go down to Wetmore right now and you go up there and you see where CCOM's tower is located, when you look at it, you say, why in the world did they put the tower back so far from the lip of the hill? Because that causes a shadow to fall across Wetmore. And when I queried him about that, they said, well, there's a story here. The guy that owns the land that goes up to the edge of the hill wouldn't talk to us. So we had to move back. So those things, but they always work out. They've been worked out for 25 years.
I can understand that, but my really concern would be, how's the DOLA process work? How much of surety do they have to have in order to give us the $1 million to proceed and the other $1 million matching that we got to get? Betting that somebody will let us have the towers in the right locations at the right times and go ahead. Then what's the commitment if they don't? If we can't get, you could run into all the landowners deciding we got to move them all back so far that we don't get everything that we signed up to. Are we committed?
But with all due respect, that won't happen.
Well, but, and the thing about it is the follow-up questions that DOLA's provided, and we've showed you all the answer, that hasn't been an issue with DOLA.
Okay, well, DOLA doesn't live here, and DOLA doesn't sit in these 3 chairs.
That's right.
But they've already done this. Rio Blanco County has 12 towers installed using this same approach, and they've been through this. They know.
So they went to them with their proposal. They
Yes.
said, we don't have any land committed, we don't have any leases on the right-of-ways, we don't know who the landowners
some
are
of
going to
their
be yet,
towers,
and they
that's true.
gave them the money to build it.
Yes, sir.
Yes. I think it's fair to say that your entire grant proposal to DOLA is predicated on these 6 towers.
Yes, sir.
That's the priority.
Okay, all right.
Because those
There's
were
no
the
gray.
biggest return
Right.
for the buck.
Understand, got the most coverage, blah, blah. Do you understand my angst at not knowing where these towers really are going to go because we don't have any landowner commitments?
I understand your concern. I don't understand your angst.
Okay, all right. The angst is we don't have it.
We don't have a right-of-way to
Right.
how hard it's actually going to be to build those roads.
No,
We're
and
gonna
that's
bid on it.
down the road, so we'll get to that.
That's
But,
included in the.
yeah, in the grant, that's true.
And the funding.
And we probably need to make that clear in case not everybody has seen that grant application to DOLA.
Well, DOLA's already aware of that.
No, I'm talking about these people sitting in this room.
Oh, okay.
That your grant application between DOLA and the EDA does include purchase, site prep, purchase of the site, purchase of the tower,
This may
site
not be
prep,
purchased, but it'll be a contractual arrangement to
okay.
use.
whether it's purchase, lease, or whatever. That's all in the grant proposal.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of this was covered in the study that was done that we started
It
with.
was all covered in.
That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, this is not a brand new concept. I mean, from day one, when you guys approached us 2 years ago, I don't remember, we talked about it. We started the study and had the study reports. I mean, the sites cannot be definite until someone signs a lease to lease the space to you. But in the study is the infrastructure, how to get a road to it, how to put in the facilities. So that's all been part of the study. This is not a new concept that all of a sudden someone's coming with, oh, wait a minute, what about this? We can't afford it because this and that. It's part of the study. And the study is based on successful projects that have been done in other locations, and we learn from those, and those are used in your study.
And it's going on today at various places around the country because towers are going up. And I always tell people, when's the last time you saw a communications tower with nothing on it?
Well, there's one in West Cliff.
Not true.
Speaking
There
of the
was one in
study,
West Cliff that wasn't working, but it's now working.
if I can,
Too, when we talk about DOLA's visibility, we've been, the 2 broadband guys that were here with Christie, we've been stroking those folks for a year and a half. The bearded mustachio guy that was even grander than your mustache. I saw him shortly after our study. He was on when we had Tony from the governor's office here. We reviewed with the Rio Blanco folks. They were listening, they've been watching our progress. And I saw him at Mountain Connect last year, soon after we approved that tower plan and such. And he says, "You got the money yet?" And I said, "No, I'm working on it." But we'd already made contact with DOLA, and we'd already made contact with EDA, that at least they didn't tell us to shut up and go home. And we started that initiative. Then I saw the same guy at the Economic Development Conference, and I said, "I've got the money." And we came back and we talked, and I elaborated on where we were and stuff like that. So, you know, we've done it with about as much visibility with DOLA as we can, and have. So they've seen the documents, they've seen the progress reports. There shouldn't be anything in there that they should be surprised at.
No, and I wasn't referring to DOLA. I'm talking about for these folks' information. I've had a lot of people say, "Well, where are you going to come up with the money to put these towers up?" I said, "It's in the grant." "Where are you going to come up with the money to put these roads in?" "It's in the grant." "Where are you going to come up with the money to put the electrical there?" "It's in the grant." So there's a lot of misinformation or ignorance in this county about what we're doing.
No doubt.
Primarily, everybody thinks we're bringing broadband to the county.
And where this is with DOLA, and you know this, all three of you, was that they came down here and they did their initial evaluation in front of all of us. They were satisfied with the grant. They were satisfied with the responses. Then we have filled out 2 sets of questions that they've issued. You all have copies of that, and they are satisfied. And they have issued an invitation to the Custer County Commissioners for at least one of you to come to Denver and present to the Board of Directors of DOLA to show that Custer County supports this undertaking and that it will become a county asset going on. And they want a commissioner's eyes sitting across the table from them to hear that, and that's where this thing is stalled at right now.
I'm committed to do that. But here's, and this is just for probably the people behind you. Custer County has approved this. Custer County signed off on the grant. It looks like DOLA is very close to, and I'm certainly not going to make a decision for them, but they're very close to approving this. And the question that's coming down, and what's really precipitated this, DOLA said, before we make our final commitment, are you 3 on board? When I say 3, I'm talking about 4,600 people in our council. Are you on board? And that's why we're here today. What Christy Doon, who's the head of DOLA, as you know, said to me when I spoke to her Friday was, "You tell me it's a go, and I'll see you in Denver." That's what she told me.
In Golden, actually.
Golden,
In Golden.
well, yeah, a suburb of Denver.
Somebody shows up in Denver looking for DOLA's hearing, we're going to be in trouble.
So the bottom line is, this is not new. We have studied this. When Christy was here, she brought broadband infrastructure experts with us. They were so enthusiastic about this project. You know, the real question that I think has cropped up lately, and I think it's a very legitimate question, is not can we fund the towers, not will we be able to, and really, once we do, even if the towers just sat there, as long as we, the county, are not stuck with them, will the people put their equipment on there? And the answer is yes. Will we increase our broadband? Absolutely. Will it help economically? I think that's a no-brainer. Absolutely will. Will it help cellular? Assuredly it will. Will it help safety? Yes. We spoke with our emergency management. They're looking forward to using the towers for repeaters for their ambulances and their search and rescue. I mean, there's so many benefits. The question that I think has kind of put a stall on the 3 of us is, what if something else comes along and the towers are no longer used? Are we stuck with a long-term maintenance? Are we saddling our citizens of Custer County to pay for something that's not being used? And I think you answered my question very quickly when you said they're willing to sign a long-term commitment. They didn't say a long-term commitment if I still have my equipment on your tower, just a long-term lease. I mean, that's where I am. But this has been studied and studied and studied. We know where it's going. The experts have been down here. I am not an expert, but I trust the people. I really trust Christy Doon because it's her money. When I say her money, I'm talking about estate's money. She doesn't give it out easily. She just be satisfied it's a good deal. And she is satisfied. She brought the experts who helped us with this.
Let me just add one thing to it without sharing insider information as I view it. We were advised by Neil Graves, whatever his last name is, who is the governor's executive director for broadband at the county. And he came to Charles and myself here late last year and he said, get your grant requests in. Hickenlooper only has a year left. And he is through giving money, parsing it out around the state with a little bit here. He wants at least a couple home runs done so that money given warrants. And the two counties that have been determined that are going to get that because they believe that this can be successfully done was Rio Blanco and Custer County. And so that's why we're getting favored treatment, is they believe that if they give their $1 million, which will trigger the Fed's $1 million, that money will come to Custer County. These 6 towers will get built. They will be activated. Our 2 ISPs will live on it. And before Hickenlooper leaves office, he will have a success story. That's what's motivating us to be fast-tracked on this.
When's Hickenlooper leaving? Actually,
After the next election.
I know, which is how many months away? Wait a second. A pretty bodacious statement. I like that. If it's you want to be aggressive. What time frame did you guys? We got boss here, and I heard you say a lot of these were based upon other things that happened before, not necessarily somebody actually looking at these roads and making a bid on and all that.
To answer your question, he's going to leave office on the 1st of January of 19.
19, right? So it's a year.
And will we have all 6 towers built by that
No.
time? No. Will we have some of them built? Yes.
Yes. So the other question I have is, there's $1 million matching grant here that Tom brought up initially. Is there a cart before the horse? What?
Those are base grant.
EDA fund.
EDA is
So
matching.
is there a guarantee they're going to do it because DOLA did it?
Yes.
They haven't
There's
agreed.
nothing a guarantee, but, the director in Denver has said on a conversation with Christie, us, and him, that if the DOLA grant goes through, they're good for $1 million to support that.
Okay, so something happened, but you're not very likely.
It would be out of.
All right, that's great. And I've never seen a government job go as planned, or even my own personal jobs go as planned. That you try to do. I believe
There's probably margin in these numbers of some kind. What's roughly the contingency in here? A quarter of what we see the total cost is,
That's
or less.
25%. I think that's without knowing, but with some discussions that we've had.
So you got 25% roughly
Plus we
50,000.
Plus, we have the consideration of the Sangre de Cristo Electric Cooperatives hooking up power at no expense to us as in kind.
But we want to be careful with that issue
Yeah.
because federal money can't be used to build out a private company's
Right.
and be viewed beneficial to them. So while Sangre de Cristo has made an offer that was very attractive, we may have to decline it in the end because it might violate some federal rules.
Well,
So-
but there's no
Yeah,
federal.
but let's not.
Well, there's
That's
no
okay.
federal requirement for in kind. There is for DOLA.
Okay, what I'm trying to get to is our liability.
if it doesn't go like we think it will, and something happened on the construction phase, and they don't complete it for the dollars that you're proposing, what is our obligation? Are we obligated to continue to go dig into the treasury of the county to complete it, or will the state be comfortable with us just quitting and walking away from a partially completed project? That's the range. Is there?
It's a good question, and there are a number of answers because trust me, all of the answers have
No, I
already
want to
occurred.
know if DOLA's ever run into that.
Yes.
What do you think? What did they do? Did they stick the county with the bill?
Sometimes they fund.
I'm just
Sometimes they don't.
Let me just kind of an example that we just recently had right here in Custer County. DOLA gave us $400,000 to revamp the Wetmore Community Center. When it was all said and done, it cost almost $1 million. DOLA goes, gosh, I'm not going to leave you with half a building, and coughed up the rest of the money.
That could happen.
So, I mean, your point is very well taken. There are contingencies we don't know about.
Right.
I mean, a forest fire comes through and it's halfway built, we got to start from scratch. Who knows? But the point is, DOLA stands by their projects once they start. I can tell you that.
And I'm just leaning on what you said earlier too. The concern would be if we do get it built, it's all happiness.
It's not if, it's if.
It's when. Well, that could be.
Right.
That could be. And then Jay pointed this out. At some point, you lose the subscribers, and the business case is gone, and people walk off, and they still come taking on their horns, whatever. Is DOLA run into anything where they're going to make us continue, like I think Tom's concern was, et cetera? That's another risk factor that weighs in our decision to commit our resources, because it would mean that we would have to dig into some of the infrastructure stuff we have to make people happy with the services we provide today.
I asked that question of her, almost identical to that. And the answer was, once the county owns the town, you own the town. DOLA's not going to come back and say, here's how I want you to manage it and run it. You have to keep internet or broadband going regardless of who's supporting it. They said, it's yours. You do what you want. I said to her, well, if we found that we had nobody on these towers, we want to sell them, could we do it? She goes, listen to me carefully.
It's yours. We own them. You own them.
Sell them. Do whatever. Make a zip line, whatever you want between them. I mean, so the concern with them micromanaging once they fund, it's not going to happen. That's just not their business.
And I think
We're stuck with a business. We got
20 million or $18 million.
We're just owners of towers. We're not in the broadband business. It's so
And
important.
it may be an opportunity rather than we're stuck with. It may be a money-making event when this is all said and done.
We sell these towers for $250,000 each or something, and all of a sudden the coffers grow.
Well, you can't
because
sell the towers, but I'm talking about the number of people that choose to live on these towers may exceed the operational cost.
We just
and
don't know.
That's
Could
right.
be. Could be.
Could well be.
It's a risk-reward
Right.
balance, and that's the only way you can look at it.
With the concerns of obsolescence, they had $200 million or $20 million initially in the broadband middle mile program. They've committed, they told us 18 of that. They got $2 million left. All of it is a combination of terrestrial, wireless, or with a hybrid of where appropriate, fiber. So the issue of obsolescence and such has been accepted as something that some of us would say none of us have to worry about it in our lifetime.
But we don't know.
But for some of us who've been in technology and stuff and have looked at what the tail end of the commercial businesses that we've been here, there may be breakthroughs along the Front Range and where the high profit centers are for these companies, but the fact is we will always be a less than desirable business plan for the commercial companies. And so if the satellites hit, then it's still going to be a delay until we'll see the effect of it here.
Until Disneyland builds their amusement park right outside of Western.
I would not vote for that after my immediate visit with that. I don't think that's not something economic development would pursue. I'll put it that way.
And that was just
We
a
are-
show.
My reply was not a joke.
We're into this an hour, which is neither here nor there. I would like to move forward with a couple questions that I think can be answered succinctly and relatively quickly. What grants has the development company applied for as of today? And what monies have been received via those grants?
The development company.
Economic Development Company.
Corporation.
Talk about on this project.
Yeah, pertaining to broadband.
You've got everything that we've got.
Okay. I do not know how much the grant was to fund the engineering study.
Well, it was 4,000, if you go back to the beginning, the strategic plan was $4,000, and I think it eventually came in at $3,060.
Okay,
And that was like getting blood out of a turnip, but that's the reality of it. And then the only other money that we've gotten for broadband was the $38,701 last year that we got from DOLA. And I think that the county put 5 into that,
38, what?
$38,701. And that was for the engineering study with Centerline.
Right.
And those are the two amounts of money that I'm aware of and I've been there the whole time.
All right. $1 million grant app to DOLA. We're going to take a break here in a minute and write some of this stuff down while I'm trying to press on.
Okay.
$1 million grant app to EDA. That's
Correct.
in sent to them, or are we still in the casual
we are
form?
in the initial process of that process.
And that'll move forward after we find out our
DOLA.
Yeah.
success or
Yeah.
failure with DOLA. El Pomar, I've read 2 figures. One of 10,000, one of 25,000. Has that been applied for?
That's
It's
Charles's.
been applied and been approved partially, and that was precipitated because Christie in a conference call indicated, and for the education of everybody, she indicated that normally a county would be expected for a $300,000 to $500,000 contribution towards a $1 million grant. But then she said, Charles, wait a minute, let me finish my sentence.
Don't panic.
Yeah, which, because I was. She said for Custer County, I think a number of $50,000 would be appropriate. So I agreed with them. We sought out, based on our previous experience with El Pomar with the Main Street Wi-Fi system. I talked to their senior vice president of finance, told him what our situation was, and he said, you know where the grant application is. We submitted a grant application for to El Pomar for $25,000 with the idea that that would be used for matching funds to contributions from the population as we did in the Right to Rockies Main Street Wi-Fi program. The approval came back for $10,000 with no explanation, and I find out that El Pomar doesn't feel like they need to explain their decisions. I checked with a contact that I've got that deals in he's a vice president in another element of El Pomar, and his comment initially was, well, you're lucky you got the 10, because as best we know, El Pomar has funded 3 grant requests for broadband-related things, and we've gotten 2 of them.
Can I ask a question for clarification? The matching funds expected for the DOLA grant is about $50,000.
Yes.
How much money of that is going to come out of Custer County's coffers?
Custer County government,
Custer County commissioners are going to have to approve payment.
0.
Zero.
How
Where
much?
is it coming from?
Okay. We will still look for $10,000 from the local populace to match the El Pomar grant. It was discussed when DOLA was here, and betting on the Sangre de Cristo power, with providing that, will be more than adequate to support the in-kind funding.
So you're not asking the county to approve any county funds to go along with the 6-tower project?
Never have, never will.
Okay.
Reiterate, it hasn't
Now,
changed.
that being said, you got $10,000 commitment from El Pomar?
Yeah.
And does that need to be matched dollar for dollar?
Well, the intent is that we will. That was the ground rules that we submitted the grant, was that it was for matching funds. So, yes.
You have a fundraiser or something, don't you?
But we still need to come up with 40 grand, either in kind or cash, is that correct? To meet the 50,000?
I've informed Christie of the El Pomar response, and she did not relieve us of any obligations, I'll put it that way. But we had introduced the idea of the Sangre de Cristo in-kind support. The acknowledgement during this meeting with both broadband guys, because I had submitted that to Christie some time ago, and she deferred the decision. But, during our meeting here, they basically said that was satisfactory. We have followed up. We haven't got a number out of Sangre de Cristo
So
Power yet.
that makes it process question then, Charles. So we got to be in front of the board on the 13th of March, whatever it is, 13th, 14th. And if you go there, do you have to have that nailed down the 40K where it's coming from?
I don't know.
Because you may not get granted it when they're digging a hard line.
I wouldn't think so. That was in the grant originally,
Yeah,
right?
we proposed, with the
Yeah, but,
100% visibility.
And then, correct me if I'm wrong, and I think this will speak to where you're coming from. We haven't talked about this yet. Assuming DOLA funds your grant, our grant application, we have 12 months to put everything in place before they write the check. Is that correct?
Generally, based on previous history, when they approve, they send a contract. And then at that time, we've got, and that was what I indicated to you personally, is I was concerned that, they'll approve, the normal process with approval, here's the contract, and then it's got to be accepted. And that's the last time to say.
So when you start drawing funds,
Let me follow this up. My conversation with Christy Doon 10 days ago led me to believe that very thing, that we've got, once that is approved and we probably sign that, then we have 12 months to get EDA in place, to get matching grants in place, to get all of the contracts written up, get all that moving forward. If we don't get that done in 12 months, we don't get the funding anyway.
That's not true. That's because we already, when we submitted it, we said that it would be, that when they asked us the interval for this, we said end of 19. So the grant that we submitted said that the project would run through the end of 19. And nobody has ever mentioned
To
us
completion?
to completion of the
Yeah, and I'm
project.
not talking about completing the project.
That the funding, as long as we're moving forward within that year period, will continue to move till the end of the project. So even though we may not have asked for, we don't have the entire infrastructure in place, she said, as long as we're moving forward, you keep submitting your vouchers and we're gonna.
It's on a
That's the way I
reimbursable basis.
understood. It's a reimbursable.
so if you don't have the 40K match check, we can still write checks. Is that what you just said?
Correct.
I think it's, they've been pretty flexible on the smaller grants, obviously, that we've gotten. And generally, they have exceeded what we thought it was going to take for completion and performance in previous. Our LPMR, interestingly enough, without soliciting us, they gave us till the end of 2019 to support and close out that LPMR
I
$10,000.
mean, Brenda can probably comment, you've been involved with DOLA payout for broadband-related activities.
Yeah, usually we have, you have to have the vouchers and the check and send that to them on the last day of the month. And then usually within 10 days, you get a check.
Right.
So,
Can we take about a 5-minute break, work on our posters for what we've discussed so far? Because here's the other thing, this is going to give us a documentation of what this meeting is about. So we'll just take a few minutes. If you guys need to get up, go to the bathroom, stretch, whatever.
I have
What
two
numbers?
more sets of copies,
Okay.
so you have one and you
Yeah,
have
all
one.
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you,
that's yours.
gentlemen. That's huge, that's huge, that's huge. Number 5, fire mitigation.
Water in the car?
All right. One of the questions that I posed to these gentlemen concerned fire mitigation. Obviously, that is, I've been informed that is will be in the final design build plans. That's reasonable. Certainly something that needs to be addressed, and obviously, I'm convinced that will be. Site road construction, can we talk about that for a minute, gentlemen? One of the questions I keep hearing is, it's not legitimate, as we've already talked about, the construction of the roads is within the grant. Maintenance of the road subsequent to the project being completed, is that a county responsibility?
It would be, yes, that'd be part of your.
Okay,
That's your decision, but in Rio Blanco County, when I asked that question, he said, that's a road and bridge responsibility.
All right.
so that's county.
That's county.
Right.
So road maintenance, county responsibility, okay?
And now, think about the roads we're talking about. We've got to have major equipment to put the towers up initially. Some of these towers, as are proposed in the detail, they're, hey, we visited one up in,
Four-wheel trails, I'm sure.
well, it takes some pretty good equipment.
Yeah.
One time.
You're gonna have to get
But-
crane up there probably.
But
of some
after
sort.
that, it's effectively, can a pickup or an ATV get up there during the middle of the winter? So it's, it doesn't have to be maintained, I would say, necessarily to our county road standards.
But a service provider like CCOM has to be up there to service something, or he's going to lose customers.
I guess you
But
read
that's-
bullet 2 on his
Yeah, he's
letter
got a
of
concern.
intent. Yeah.
Okay,
So we do have to maintain something reasonable.
Something, but it's not,
yeah.
you know.
I spoke to CCOM, a person at CCOM, and they said currently they have a tower site that the landowner will not allow them to drive across, so they're walking to that cell type site to do their work. So my question is this, if the county saddled, sorry, that's a negative connotation.
Committed to.
If part of the county's responsibility is to maintain some semblance of access to these sites, I'm assuming it's reasonable to say that the landowner of where the cell or the tower site is located may not be a contiguous land ownership to some county road. We may have to have other access privileges. Would that be fair to say?
In the case of these 6, I don't know of anything, but I certainly couldn't say they wouldn't be. So I would have to say that
Probably,
it's a
we're
possibility.
probably going to have to go across somebody else's land.
It's a possibility. I won't say
Okay.
probability.
All right. I personally think, looking at the long lats, that is a probability that we're going to have to go across somebody's land, but that's a difference between where we're at.
Right.
If it is a possibility, we could agree that it probably is. So that would be another land ownership hurdle, right? Not just the tower site location landowner,
Right of ways.
but we might have to deal with right-of-ways. True or false? Okay, all right. I could say that's good for number 7. I'm just trying to go down the list. Estimates of, is that right? No. Estimates of maintenance and repair contracts from the vendors. Your grant was written based on the idea that the revenue generation would be from $200 to $400 per tower per vendor. That would be, correct me if I'm wrong, that would be the revenue stream for the county in the state.
400 to 800 times 6.
Okay, 400 to 800, because your grant's written on 200 to 400.
Right, but there's two,
So it'd be 400 to 800.
Oh, you're saying per tower?
Right, per
Gotcha,
tower.
okay,
To,
right,
That's your revenue.
yeah, right. So tie into that 4,800,
Take the average, 3,600.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever, okay? Monthly basis,
The,
annual basis, what basis is that?
I was,
Per tower, per month, correct?
What are they expecting to pay us?
again, I.
400 a month or a year?
Well, it's a negotiation thing, but they know that from experience that rate is going to be somewhere between 200 to 400. This is for the fixed WISP. This is for the fixed
Right.
wireless
Right.
provider.
That's all we're talking
They're
about.
they're going to come in looking at 200. We're going to be looking at 400 per tower per month.
Per month.
Right.
Right.
And they expect that, and we expect that because that's the industry model.
Altitude is negotiable, first come, first serve, how's that typically gonna be
The
handled?
band on the tower.
Well, there have to be a policy on that, and, the easy one is first come, first serve, put you up there, but then, companies have different attitudes towards how high they want to send their techs up to, so
To be determined.
or how much they.
TBD is a good
Yeah,
answer.
well, yeah, and who does the TBD?
It'll be them.
Well, the TBD is going to be done amongst, if
It's
you were
negotiated
looking at the
part
players,
of
it's
the
going to be the
contract.
5 of us.
So to be negotiated with the WISPs.
Yeah,
Correct.
but we're going to have a mutual agreement amongst this group before we
Okay.
sit down with them. But you can expect that when we end up with the numbers we just talked about is where this is going to land.
Okay, good. Did you have something?
Well, I was just suggesting we do have some feedback from Rio Blanco County of what
That's the
they're
other side of the equation. What are the anticipated cost of operations?
Right.
And we can address that
Yeah,
if there's.
and that's fine. My question would be to this then. Is Rio Blanco County a fair and reasonable comparison to Custer County?
There are some differences because they are a utility.
Thank you. So it is not a fair comparison, yes or
Well,
no?
be careful.
It depends on how you
When
break
you talk
it
about
down.
They're not a true utility.
No, but
They don't
their county
submit-
has taken it on.
That they don't sell service to the public. They have two outward-looking private industries that sell their service, but they are the provider of the network and all aspects of it. So they provide this service, and then if, Jane Doe wants to open a broadband business, she can come to the county, sign a
Right.
contract for service, and then she goes out and sells the service to the people.
And I submit to you, gentlemen, that is not a comparison to Custer County. Absolutely no way you can say that compares to what you're asking us to do.
Night and day.
Thank you. Okay, I want that to be known that we're not saying, well, Rio Blanco's doing this, so we can do this. That is an apple and an orange.
Right.
That is like going over to Delta County and saying, oh, let's do what Delta County does. They've got,
The opportunity,
There are
the
REAs running
opportunity
there.
that you guys have is infrastructure, period.
okay, and that's great. I don't mind talking about Rio Blanco as long as we say, as far as the two counties go, this is where we would be similar.
Right, but a tower is a tower.
The tower's a tower, but I have had,
Maintenance should be basically the same
That's
regardless
the
of who's
approach.
utility and who's not utility.
That's right.
We're gonna be straddled with the cost of maintenance of it. And I
right,
guess that's where we wanna go next. We're estimating $3,600 on the average between the two, dollars a month to revenue on the towers. What estimates do we have on the cost of maintenance of the towers?
Again, I have to go back to Blake Mobley because I have a relationship with Blake and he's been doing this for a while. And he works for the county over there and he's very open. He dug out his actual figures for last year. They have 12 towers in Rio Blanco County, and it was $70,000 was their actual for the bucket labeled tower maintenance. And so we did the math on that. And when you get through doing that math and dividing it down to a per tower basis, it comes out to $483. For that, Charles, he always rounds up, so he rounded it to 500. And so we ended up with a month. And then the only thing missing out of that was insurance.
okay.
And so we had to talk to a different lady.
And the insurance
Yeah.
went on your tower maintenance. Did that include what? It included maintaining the road.
It included what?
I would assume that was just tower.
You got maintenance, you got a broad category, so you can break it into two pieces or three or whatever. Just-
Well, this was, they had a few lease payments that they had to pay. They had to pay for a generator service, and that included propane and all that during the year. Because they're responsible for their own, buildings and all the electronics in there, so they have to heat and cool those buildings. But that included that. Let's see, that included the road and bridge chargeback. That included,
They own the emergency generators.
yeah, they own the emergency generators. And then they have pest control and maintenance of the land up there. And then, anyway, he just said anything and everything that comes up that has to do with ongoing tower O&M.
So that's the O&M. Do the installations of those generators and the buildings, is that rolled up in the grant?
That's in the
Is that
grant.
something we gotta have a building?
That's in the grant. And the insurance was in their case, and he couldn't explain why. He said that just that's in human resources is where the insurance policy for the county is, and they have CTSI. And so when I talked to Laura Smith, who's the HR director, she said it wasn't an issue. She said when we had a new tower, we just,
Is that liability only, or does that include
It's liability
tower
comprehensive.
that gets blown over?
And I looked into that a little today, and our HR finance person estimated $75 to $100 a month.
Geez, that's the same number we got from them, except it was 100 to 125.
So your $500 per month is per tower
It's per tower per month, and then you add the insurance on top of that.
plus insurance.
And it ends up working within the revenue.
I stepped over you, sir. Go
It's
ahead.
fine, it's fine. Let me walk this through. Their total cost is $70,000 for 12 towers. So just extrapolating, 35,000 for 6 towers annually, or $2,600 a month. Did I not do that
I
right?
have to do the math here, but
Well, what I'm trying to do is we came up with what we thought a reasonable revenue would be $3,600 a month. And I'm trying to come up with what's our cost going to be. And if it's $2,600 a month, I'm going to call that a wash because I know there are going to be additional expenses. So we ought to, the way I'm hearing it, at least to Rio Blanco, the cost of maintenance is offset by the revenue they get. And then you have to look at it in terms of, is this a service you're providing? That's the way I would look at it, at least.
I would agree with the first part. I don't quite understand the service that we're providing, but.
Because it's not a revenue stream for the county.
Oh, you're saying that's the alternative way to look at it?
That's the way I would, because
Right.
it's a
Well, it
zero-sum
Yes.
game. We're not making money, but we're
Right.
not in that business. We're a service business. I made that statement when I
Right.
first started.
And
So,
the whole concept behind this is to create an infrastructure component that will allow us to offer, dramatically increase the amount of broadband coverage in the county without costing the county any money. We're not building something to make money for the county.
Well, it would be nice.
Okay,
Then it's a decision.
Then we can
on
drive
one's
off
part.
the risk too.
Is if it
Right, you
exceeds
gotta
the
be
cost,
competitive.
then there's probably some logic that says, hey, that ought to be set away.
you certainly
Long-term
could,
rental.
it's been done in this county previously. You certainly could say to the providers, you raise your fee by $10 a month, and that's what you pay back to the county. It's been done before. I disagree with it, but it's been done. It's a kickback is what it is, but it's been done.
And those details are going to get worked out between now and the time the towers are activated and they're brought on. And there's probably a number of inputs that are going to have to come into this thing. But this is not a new road. We're not the first people to travel it. It's been done many times.
Okay, this discussion is a concern, not a concern, it's just, I'm reading letters of intent. When you talk with CCOM and they said we will do it, we haven't really understood what they have a business model, they've got to make money in order to hang their stuff on there, and the maintenance, they don't have to particularly care about because we're strapped with the maintenance later on.
But they got to worry about the maintenance on the
Equipment.
equipment.
That's right. They got to get. I know they have to get there.
Right.
My point is, what model did they use? What kind of subscriber base did you guys use? What are they using to make the case that we'll do this? Like 3,000 users or 20?
I don't care if it
I do. The only reason I do is whether or not we get a big. How long will they? Right now, the economic growth of this county is pretty slow, and this 80% coverage that goes out there is great, but it goes to a lot of vacant land right now. Addresses, not people. And so they have, and there's only 3,500 voters up in this county, and so there's multiple users embedded in those. And so, you can multiply 60 a month times whatever your projected income would be starting off, and we want to have some longevity here. Are they comfortable with what currently they can start with, or do we know what
Well,
they have?
we know the source of their customers are going to come from, and I always hate to say this because it offends some people, but the internet providers are the ones that are going to lose customers. They're going to migrate over to the two WISP, who now will have a broader coverage. And yes, they'll have to pay more money, but there's ways of getting around that. So and we know that they need 5 or 6 customers around any given tower for them to justify the cost of the radio equipment.
They're
goes
happy
up
with
there.
that.
And they
That's
didn't
surprising
get
that few.
That's how we got our service at Leavenworth.
well, yeah, but I'm talking about countywide on 6 100-foot towers. They're
Right,
going to be
but some of
satisfied
these
with
towers
half
are
a
gonna be-
dozen new
So
users.
6 times 6 is 36 users. They don't care.
Well, the report documents how many addresses. We're based that, and that most of those addresses were established subsequent to 1970 with the ski area. And we're assuming, and that was full disclosure in the report, we're assuming that our growth will basically be in those established 120 some odd subsectors that are organized that we've got here.
But can I go back and Bill, I just feel a little bit differently, and I'm trying to.
I'm just trying to understand.
No, it's cool. My feeling is, I don't care if they don't have a single provider, if they've signed a contract for 20 years with the county to pay, what is $600 or whatever the number is. That's their business
agree.
risk they take.
But I'm more practical than that. If I were the CEO of the company and my guys are negotiating with Custer County and Custer County comes up and says, well, good, we only need 36 subscribers.
Yeah, I guess that's.
I would worry about, you make that contract deal
You
once.
don't build a business. They already have 800 subscribers out here, so they're incrementally adding this. And they don't want to do it for just 6, but they're gonna, because then they have to not only put the radio equipment on the tower, they have to put the backhaul microwave
Costs
on the
money.
tower. Costs money to do this, and then they
It's
have
an
to,
investment
they
they
have
have.
to recover.
That's why I was surprised to hear you say all that about commit to it with 6 subscribers in order to make
That's
that
threshold.
That's,
I know.
that's,
See,
that's the
and
trick.
that's the thing. You say incrementally. Well, okay, we can talk semantics all day. Any business for profit is going to look at the increased revenue before they ever sign a contract. They're not going to sign a contract and then come up here and look for 6 or 8 more people to put on that.
We're dealing with 2 companies that have demonstrated significant growth in the last 2 or 3 years and sustainability.
I'm willing to take the risk.
And they're
know what the market
they're
is.
under providing today as we sit here, because there's a thing in the fixed wireless business, and once you get beyond a certain number of customers, the level of service deteriorates during peak times. So they try to milk that a little bit by having more customers than they should, and those of us that monitor service, we're constantly looking for that, and we say, when you get to N number of customers, then it's time for you to put another radio up to service them right there. So, there has to be some expertise on both sides here to do this. But we know from looking at estimates for Custer County that they estimate we're going to grow 100 souls between now and 2020. They estimate we're going to grow by another 500 souls by 2025. Those are the demographic office estimates from right here. We know that I go to Rotary every week, and people come up to me and say, how close are we to expanding broadband? I can't wait to get off my DSL.
I can't wait.
That's, you can't. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. That's all right.
I'm good.
Estimate of increased cost to the county residents compared to their current cost that they're paying for internet service or broadband.
Could be 0.
Could be 0.
Because they might elect to stay right where they are.
I wouldn't think these 2 internet providers, these WISP, are going to double their.
No, in fact, recently they've,
Dropped
at
their
least
price.
CCOM dropped their price.
So, I don't mean to step on you,
That's
but
okay.
just follow up with your question. And I'm just thinking outside the box. We talked about landowners may say, yeah, you can build my tower up, and I'm going to get broadband for as long as those.
Like the tower, right?
Right. I wonder if, as a negotiating tactic, the county could get broadband at no cost by allowing these companies to hang their equipment on our towers.
Subject to negotiation.
And that's what I was about to
County
say.
being who, Jim?
I mean, we could say, here's what's going to happen. You're going to pay, what was the number, 4 to 6? By $300 a month, you're going to pay. And the customer called Custer County
Meaning it's
Facilities,
the
the courthouse.
business of conducting
Courthouse.
government business.
Right, the courthouse, sheriff, free broadband. I mean, that's a
Sure,
negotiation
yeah,
that I think is, I mean, that's, I know they give these
There's
positions all
absolutely
the
no
time.
reason not to put that on the table, and the likelihood of getting it is high.
Has CCOM given you gentlemen any idea of the cost for them to hang equipment on any tower, one tower?
We haven't asked that question.
Don't really care, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't care.
I did, and here's why I care. I was told between $20,000 and $25,000 to equip a tower.
One of their towers.
No, to put new equipment on a tower, not
Well-
one of theirs. How many towers does CCOM have in the county? 25?
No, about 12 to 14, somewhere in there.
And that's the small tower.
That's the little 20-foot towers.
And I would qualify, I hope the person you were talking to, I mean, we deal typically with John Saunders. And anybody other than that, question.
Okay,
Well, they
We'll
would
take
be detect.
I did not ask John that.
Your number, the 25, is what Mike Sanders told me before he sold the company, is what a tower location costs him to install the 20-foot tower, which is pretty flimsy, anchored with you get three guys, and then put the radio equipment. But the radio equipment was the expensive component.
Okay,
Which is,
Tom, that's a pretty good point. Just a curiosity question is, those 12 towers have a footprint of some kind.
And they were
There's
part of
a-
this analysis.
I was going to ask you.
yeah, there
And
is.
so the 80% coverage is in addition to their 12 towers.
Yes.
it doubles, yes. If you look,
Because they theoretically are getting what
Right. What we did is the model went in, we put their tower B&H's in for theirs, and Hilltop Broadband. We then swung a 7-mile arc around their towers, and we picked up the addresses.
and actually it's at different heights up to 100 foot.
So you believe these two current WISPs are going to leave their towers functioning just as they are?
Not necessarily, but that's their business.
They haven't indicated to you, we'll strip these towers and go to your 100-footers?
They have to understand, and I will be part of the discussion, and both the people we've dealt with, because these are both engineering companies, that they understand that they could say, okay, since we have a 100-foot tower, we will get rid of these towers here and we'll go out to 14 miles. Well, if you go out to 14 miles, you aren't going to be able to get broadband service at 25.3 and at 50.15 and going on up. So it's been made very clear, and that input came from them, because when we met with both of them, we said, from a design perspective, how are we going to get to 100 by 50? And they said, do not go beyond 7 miles.
And
Which I think is
it'll be,
industry.
they've got money tied up in capital assets, and it'll depend on,
If it's
And if it-
duplicative, I'd pull the stuff off.
and if it's obsoleted, that'll give them a chance to capitalize their money smarter on a 100-foot tower than it would be a 20-foot tower.
So committed to the county to pay rent. I don't care what they do.
That's right.
But
Seriously.
if they don't feel there's potential of enough customers, they're not going to pay rent. That's a business plan, right? I'm asking.
Yeah, no, I get you. If they don't feel that they have the potential to make a profit, they're not going to do it. But once they've determined that we are going to do it and they sign a lease with us, I don't care what.
I don't either.
They can hang birthday.
That's right.
I don't care.
I'm with you. I agree 100%.
Okay, we
As
agree.
long as we all acknowledge the fact that if there's not a customer base there, they're not signing any
I
contract.
think we've said before, and it's incumbent upon us to work the process. If, assume all this 2 million plus comes straight, and if we don't have the confidence that we have the host, or that we can host WISP and/or cellular folks, then there's a question of, why would we put the towers in place before we
The real
commit
question
those?
is, the real bottom line question is, why are we even putting up 6 towers? What is the purpose? Why have you invested, 2.5 years in this project and 10,000 of your own money in this project? Why are we doing it? We're doing it to provide a service to the people, right? It's economic development. So that somebody sitting on a road down there can get broadband, fast internet service. I don't even want to call it broadband. Fast enough so they can conduct a viable business. Why do I care? Because I'm going to tax you, and I'm going to take that money and I'm going to fix the roads. And I'm going to do everything else I need to do with that money. That's why I care.
And I would answer your question by saying, why are we doing this? I'm doing it because, one, I know how to do it, because I spent 40 years doing it. 2, I came here and I had to do it from my own house to get it. And getting involved with the county, and I happen to love this place, is that there won't be a county if we don't solve the broadband, high-speed internet issue for the years 10, 15, 20, 25 going ahead. And so we're going to do that, and it's going to get put in, and it's going to dynamically change the level of broadband available to citizens of this county.
I agree. Without a big footprint. And if you drive through Walsenburg or Trinidad, you're going to see what happens to counties or areas that stay in the old age, in the dark ages. I mean, boarded up business after business.
Yep.
And this is without a footprint. This was without Disney coming in.
Yep.
Okay.
We have one of the current users of our broadband system here, and I'm sure she would be glad to share what she had to go through so that she can hold a job in San Francisco from her Custer County home.
We understand. That's it.
To me, that took care of that email and those questions.
And I think in addition to the additional question you asked about insurance.
Yeah, we're good there.
We're good.
Yeah, I think so.
I would suggest too, if you all choose to get additional information and realizing the differences between, and I never can remember, but rather the Rio Blanco County guys. Blake and his county commissioners, I'm sure would share any questions that y'all would had about their experience. And in fact, they had gone through a couple of elections, so your counterparts that started the system up there, I don't know that there's any of them that are still commissioners, but the transition has been relatively easy. Is one still, but they're certainly available. I understand that DOLA has offered any additional information, and I know you all have been talking to Christy about that. And I would also suggest that Tony in the governor's office, if there's anything that you think are appropriate for him, I would share one thing that when he and the lieutenant governor came here for that one evening session back last spring, much of the discussion ended up broadband. And that was the first time we'd had the privilege of meeting Tony. And he'd just come out of industry about less than 6 months before, and he was traveling around a lot of the counties and, trying to acquaint himself with the environment. And afterwards he said, you all seem to have more interest in broadband than a lot of the counties have. And I said, I'm not totally surprised at that. I said, and Dale was across the room talking. I said, he retired out of IT, working with a couple of the airports on the West Coast. I retired as a senior manager for Lockheed Martin and program management. And he said, oh, you guys know what you're doing. So, and not to push our capability, but the fact is, we want this for the county. We want it to be competitive and the right kind of environment for the future here for all of us and those dudes. And the fact is that there's a lot of counties out there that are trying to improve their broadband as a base, and we feel with economic development that it's the most compatible with what we want to keep here. It's because people she can attend her meetings a couple of days a week in San Francisco and live here. We've got Kate that's with a Florida company that she and her husband here. They're horse people, They found the combination that they could have their broadband, they could have their jobs, and still the quality of life that all of us enjoy. So, to that extent, we find out when we look at what we can do to strengthen our economy here, it's the one thing that some of us feels very strongly about.
Without the negative footprint that we all don't want because we love what we got here.
That's it. We can do it, and you get used to towers, but it's not smokestacks, and it puts us in a competitive nature. And I don't know where our planning department got their numbers, but you can come up with all kinds of numbers of growth. None of it's particularly good, especially when you talk to people along the Front Range and in Denver. They've got big expectations, and more the idea that there's going to be the kind of folks that we're wanting to cultivate are not going to want to live along the I-25 corridor, and they would prefer to live where we do. So, it's not a matter of how many vacancies we've got now, it's the potential of filling them in the future.
So can I ask a question, if I may, please? My understanding, the real purpose of this is prior administrations was gung-ho all for this, got this project up and moving. This administration has some very pertinent, appropriate questions. I have no issue with that whatsoever. So the purpose of really what's going on now is DOLA, Christie, needs from the three of us a commitment that Custer County buys off on this and we're ready to move forward.
And that you'll go to Golden and present.
Unless I'm having appendicitis, I will be there. Here's the question is, I've heard so many dates that she needs to know when do the three of us have to say it's a 3-0 vote, 2-1 vote, whatever.
I just happened to ask you
Is
that
it
question
March
this morning.
9th or is it March 14th?
And I asked her the same question, and I'll bet you we got two different answers.
And I'll bet you I got
Read
two
the
different
paper.
answers.
Well, in fact, her note said, if y'all need some more time, which I hate to even suggest, and it was a matter of when are your meetings? And I said, well, you're got scheduled. I said, no decision today because it's a working group. And
We have a meeting Wednesday.
well, actually, your calendar shows that there's a meeting tomorrow too.
That's a different kind of meeting.
That's
Well,
another workshop.
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, it didn't say.
The needs assessment meeting.
It's not a workshop, it's a meeting.
Eleventh.
After the meeting. Right.
No, it's the court security.
But part of the deal is if you need more time, let her, but it was, because I asked her, I said, is the obligation the 6th of March? And
We don't need more time. It's time to make a decision.
I was going to say, we've answered all your questions we can.
No, we haven't.
Well,
We have not answered all of our questions.
we've all, you didn't hear last, that we can.
No, that's not true either.
Then
We're not ready to leave yet, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, well then,
But go ahead with your
well,
statement. I
but,
just,
the question
wanna
was,
deal with
when is our
accurate facts.
deadline? And she was asking when was it going to make a decision? I said, well, you can't make it today.
I mean, you guys talked to her at first, but I had heard secondhand that no later than 6 March, Dolan needed to have a decision from Custer County on whether they were going to come to Denver and present in support of this grant. And if you declined to come on the 6th, if you advised them on the 6th of March that you were no longer interested in supporting this grant, they were going to pull it.
well, I
Now,
was a little hard on these two newspaper reporters because I didn't get anything secondhand. I asked Christy Doon specifically what the drop dead date was. She said, obviously, if you show up on the 13th and pull the plug, that's the drop dead date. She said, however, I certainly wouldn't recommend you doing that. And I said, I would certainly not do that either. It wouldn't be fair, right, or pertinent. It irritated me when I read in the paper March 6th, when Christy did not tell me that when I asked her specifically. When I asked the newspaper people, they said, you said March 6th. I don't want to get in a pissing match. I just would like to stick with the facts, not a bunch of sensationalism, not a bunch of ambiguous statements, just the facts, because that's what I'm going to have to make a decision on.
wait,
Now, to your point, you said you've answered all the questions that you can. I don't believe that's true, because I have some other questions and I know you can answer them.
Okay. Well,
So,
we've answered to the best of our knowledge all the questions you've asked.
excellent.
Now, is that,
Won't argue with that a bit. In the grant, there's $6,850 for a management fee for the Upper Arkansas Area Council of Governments. True or false? Must be true because I'm looking at it.
I was
well, it's not-
$6,850.
It's true, but it's not that number anymore because that was based on the initial submittal that went in when we thought we were going to get a $25,000 grant from El Pomar, and when they dropped it from 25 to 10, it became something like $2,800 now, just for memory. So that's not the higher number, it's the lower
Can
number.
they modify that for the submission?
We have modified it since
So what
then.
we have is not correct yet.
Well, I don't know what he's looking at.
$6,850.
That was the original
understand.
sum.
Okay. Are there any other numbers significantly changed that you're aware of from the grant that I'm looking at? Which is the only one I've been provided.
We've been provided with Q&A that.
No, the grant. Other than the grant that I've been provided, I'm sorry.
You know, those are the numbers that was added because what it was for the matching funds, for it to be tax deductible, that was a fee that the COG would manage those matching funds so that the $25,000 that we projected would be tax deductible to the contributor.
So that's going through
That's all
COG,
COG.
not through the county.
Right, because they've got a 501c3
Okay.
they use.
So that answered a question. Another question is, what is the Custer County Economic Development Corporation, management fee?
There is a potential for us to cover some through the EDA grant, and that's to be determined.
Didn't need to articulate that in the grant. Obviously not in the casual grant because it's not in there.
Right.
Will you address that specifically in the final grant app to the EDA?
By necessity,
Okay?
because the SCED gets a percentage for that EDA grant, and basically as functioning as an extension of the SCED, it's not inappropriate for us to put some management fees into this specific project.
Would come out of that grant money.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So when you make the EDA, you update it with what actual costs you know at the time. Is it a given there that we have to take $1 million?
No. And you know, it's depending upon our negotiations with subcontractors and such like that, that's, you know, that devil's in the details.
Which we have not been provided all of because obviously some of those details aren't even available. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Thank you. Are any of the proposed tower sites located in HOAs?
We don't know.
Well, we better find out because they will raise hell with us if we try to stick a 100-foot tower in an HOA.
Part of the negotiations and the fact finding.
I don't know how far negotiations are going to go with the homeowners association in this county now.
We've overcome some of those issues.
Historically, you put up other towers?
Well, the CCOM towers or Hilltop. And in fact, one of our reporters here has a personal experience. We helped them negotiate with their home HOA to put a CCOM tower up there.
Did the internet service providers give you any idea of what they thought their potential new customer base would be?
Didn't ask. This is just me talking. Didn't ask and didn't care because I'm interested in them signing a contract to live on our towers. And if they get 10 new customers or they get 100 new customers, good for them.
Okay. And I come at it from diametrically the other side of that equation. Saying I just can't imagine them not having to determine the number of new customers or customers that will switch before they would ever even remotely think about signing a contract with us.
And
That's
they,
one of
and they
my
know that number today because they know how much demand they have from Custer County people that aren't now given service. We've got people, again, like my sampling is at Rotary, people come up every week because they know that when they get the tower out here on Beddoes Mountain, it's going to put a footprint out in that area there, and they would just love to get broadband service. And so every so often they walk up to, are we closer?
If they live in the right spot, right?
We we don't know and nobody knows what they're going to charge them yet. Is that right?
Well, we know what they charge today for similar service.
Which is around $60 or whatever you said.
Well, it's 89 for 25. Now, they can take the lower service if they want to. That's their choice, because they're not going to walk away from a customer. They're going to take their monthly rental. But our belief is that the average person in Custer County, over a period of time, because we're moving more and more towards being dependent on the internet, they're going to step up to the $89 rate and not worry about it. Because if you take out your telephone service, you move it over onto voice over IP, onto reliable internet service, the offsetting cost makes the cost of internet broadband very inexpensive.
Obviously, the FCC can't really decide what they're going to do about the definition of broadband. I mean, they're thinking about changing it again and actually reducing it.
Okay, that's not true anymore, because I have an attorney friend of mine who deals with the FCC that sent me an email last week saying that she checked the agenda for the meeting, and that issue of changing from 25.3 back to 10.1 is off the agenda.
Okay. Because that was legislation headed to the Capitol, but that
Yeah, that's
not
been
happened.
removed.
Thank you.
I think it was another little straw man.
Yeah, that was a self-serving.
Are we, by definition from the FCC, are we underserved right now in this county?
Not by the FCC, but by the state, we are an underserved county.
Okay. Just as a side note, somebody asked me this yesterday. Flower, do you know of anybody that does not have internet in this county? I said, that wanted it. And I said, no, don't think I do. Led me to the question, how many people in this county have internet? Which goes back to how many people live in this county. We can't even agree on that.
Well, we use the census data. We know that there's about 2,000 households
Right.
in the county. And during the process of this study, the two ISPs provided us that they both felt that Custer County, and this is Central Lake and everything, about 60% of Custer County households have internet.
Pardon me on the percentage, I'm sorry.
About 60% of Custer County households
Have internet.
Again, now that's what we were provided.
Yeah. I wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah.
It would be, those are a few of the numbers that I'd like to get a grasp on.
And, there are people here that still attempt to use dial-up. And, more power to them if they can live that way. But there are not very many of them.
I don't know anybody that does dial up.
Who would own the backup power?
The generators.
Well,
If that's the
it's
route.
it's a TBD. Backup power is required. As we move forward, and as because again, in the industry, it's been decided nationally that no longer will money, federal money or state money, be used to maintain copper wire. The telephone companies, which are the incumbents, have traditionally received payment from the governments to maintain the copper wire. That has been discontinued. So the copper plant in the country is slowly deteriorating because the intent is we're going to move the telephone service of the country over onto voice over IP. These are decisions made by, way up higher that this is going to happen. It'll take a long time. So the bottom line is that, go back and ask your question again.
Oh, who's going to own the backup
Oh,
generation?
the backup generator would be determined by, it has to exist, number one.
Can it be solar?
It will be solar. But there has to be a generator at a certain point, because if we end up with a weeks where you can't go down is the issue. There has to be 5 nines reliability on a service that's going to have life safety telephone service on it. So there has to be backup
But if
generator.
it doesn't have life
And
safety,
so it's either going to be the company, because CCOM has said we'd prefer to put our own solar in. And my comment was, well, we would be okay with that as long as you put a generator in, because we cannot go down. Where I live right now, when the power goes out, I know that 61 minutes later my internet's going out, because that's how much battery they have on the tower that serves my thing. And I've made it very clear to them that that's unacceptable. You ought to have at least 8 hours worth of backup on that tower, because generally within 8 hours, commercial power comes back.
So we really don't know what the backup plan.
We don't know what the backup plan, but it'll differ by the two WISP, and it'll differ by site. Now, we do know that the tower down south in Centennial, we're going to put a full backup system in there because they're off the grid.
Meaning propane or something.
It'll have solar, it'll have batteries, solar, and a propane generator, yes.
And the ownership of that is to be negotiated, is what you're
Well, the
saying?
ownership of that, if we put it in there as part of the install, which we will in Centennial, that
We
becomes
end
a
up
county
maintaining
asset.
it. Becomes ours.
And if the WISPs say, you gotta provide us with backup, then it becomes a county asset.
In return for a higher fee, yes,
Negotiable stuff again.
yes.
Okay. Where are we at with communication with cellular to go on these towers?
During the process of the Centerline Solutions engineering study, all four of the major carriers, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, and Sprint, were contacted because Centerline does design consulting for all four of the major carriers. And they were advised that these towers were being considered and would be built. And if they're aware of it, we would be interested in talking with them. Nobody has called during that period of time, because if you look at it from their eyes, they're very busy trying to keep up with traffic increase of wireless devices in the metropolitan areas of the country, which makes them lots of money. So we're going to have to figure a way to incent them. So when people say, well, they get $1,500 a month up to $5,000 a month for tower space on a front range area, my comment was, dream on, because we're not getting $1,500 to $5,000 per tower for the tinkle of population that we have out here. But with the towers there, and if the county's wisdom is, we really need to incent some additional cellular coverage out here, which we do. We have the worst coverage I've ever seen in my life. Then we will be in a position. Their input to us was that Beddoes Tower up north here would give them visibility from Texas Creek all the way into town. The tower down at West Rosita would cover that whole area going down towards the airport and beyond, down towards the Orfano County line. And then there was a tower over there at the Boy Scout camp up above San Isabel that would allow them to provide coverage, cellular coverage, down into the San Isabel itself and along that corridor right there. And they felt that the carriers would have an interest in that if it was properly priced.
Okay, sir, thank you. Gentlemen, jump in anytime. I just know I feel like we're running at the clock, and so I just want to try to be succinct here.
Make it clear, we're going to have service the end of 19. Is that the goal?
We're going to have, if approved, if you all approve this, and we go forward with the grant, the intent is that when they close in 19, we'll have 6 towers up, and they'll be populated by 2 broadband carriers.
Okay. I live in Wetmore. What are you going to do for me? That's what I've been asked yesterday.
As long as they aren't in that gorge right along the creek, in the floodplain, basically, there is a possibility. In fact, a year after CCOM bought DD Wireless, they bought the provider for that area, and in our master plan, and subsequently, CCOM did not have, DD Wireless did not have a sufficient, I think they had, less than a dozen customers in the Wetmore area. A number of people were quite happy with the service that they were getting from the other provider that comes in from the north and east that now belongs to CCOM. It's still a challenge, but one of our towers would replace, wouldn't it, one of our 6 that would replace basically the current location of the CCOM tower. That's still a problem. In fact, that whole 96 corridor from about, Rosita Road on,
So below Myron's Tower to Wetmore,
it's a challenge.
would it be fair to say probably not going to change with these 6 towers?
These 6 towers, right.
If I was to answer your question, I would have said, this 6-tower project, what will it do for you in Wetmore?
Thank you. That's great.
It brings up
As long as we're not dancing around the issue. I'm good.
similarly, taxpayers are already paying some money in this county for broadband. We pay fees on our phone bills already, and that's not ever going to go away. You know, I worry about how everybody in the county needs to take advantage of the system like Tom did just now. I worry about keeping the customer base viable so that we don't let it peter out 2 years after we turn it on. You guys did a pretty good job of answering the questions. There's still some open issues with, we don't have solid contracts, we don't have solid, right-of-ways, we don't have a lot of those things, which surprises me because I wouldn't ask you to risk your own family money to invest and not answering those kinds of questions. So I'm trying to get comfortable with that risk factor on here. You know, from a commercial corporation like Lockheed, I worked for Lockheed like you did, Raytheon, worked for the government. So you've done a very good job bringing forth that. The only other issue I have is technology changes so quick. Yes, HughesNet would have some outages because there's going to be some weather issues, but it's still 25 down, 3 up. With the phone, you can put the phone on it too. So I don't know what, with Elon Musk doing his thing with these low Earth orbiting satellites, we're going to see it. They're not going to do it because they're not going to. They want to make a buck. So we've got to compete with that in the future. Now, I'm with Jay. If we have a contract and it's signed and they're going to pay us the rent anyway, that'd be cool. But I worry about it. That's a nice letter of intent, but when push comes to shove, I hope within a year, they don't change their minds before we sign.
The only reason they would change their mind is if the United States of America ceased to exist and we didn't need the internet.
Like I said, I would worry about that.
Well, I will let you worry about that.
And we got big problems, right?
In the DOLA grant, I don't know what page, well, I'm looking at it right here. But anyway, I see that you have on the project budget, the Civil 2, 3, and 4 are tower site grading, foundation, tower site improvements. That is for all 6 towers, I'm assuming.
It is.
Because that's a total inclusive price of $2,056,000.
It is.
Okay, thank you. Secondly, here's another question. Are we going to enter into a contract with the Economic Development Corporation to manage these 6 towers?
Yes, the simple answer is yes.
Okay.
We had memorandum of agreements before. This is a lot more complicated than what we had on the tower survey. But yes, the intent
It's not necessarily a given, it's an intent, right? I mean, if somebody else got competitive.
Yeah, but we wanted
I mean,
to define manage these
I don't know what it
towers.
is.
Well, okay, let me back up.
Because
So-
manage these towers covers a lot of
Right.
area.
Right. So these towers are delivered to Custer County. And then all of a sudden, my old buddies from Economic Development Court said, you know what, we're moving out of country. You're going to find somebody to do the work from here on. Or these towers are up, erected, and ready to be populated. And the same scenario happens. You two move out of country. We'd have to go find somebody else now to deal with CCOM and CenturyLink and Hilltop, and I don't really believe there are going to be 4 cell phone carriers ever come up here, but nonetheless. You see where I'm getting at is, how far are you guys willing to go as a corporation in seeing this thing through?
Real simple. Our intent is to, assuming these grants are approved and you guys move forward and they're awarded, we're gonna oversee the construction of this process, the installation of these towers, the activation of these towers, the acceptance of these towers, and turn them over to the Custer County government, for which we will then look at it from a little bit different. And there's two options. You can either have an internal organization, an IT/telecom slash special systems group within the county, which I doubt seriously you're going to have in the next 2 years, or you can outsource this, and we would assist you in finding an organization locally that has done this before for other counties and that would be willing to take over responsibility for managing and operating and maintaining these 6 towers for a fee that would be covered by the rental that is recovered.
Hopefully, we don't know yet.
Yeah, and but that's how it'll be done. A lot of counties would want to do it themselves, but we're not at that place in time.
Because I don't believe that as county commissioners representing the county, we have the expertise, knowledge, time, wherewithal to do what we're just talking about.
Those are your words, and I agree with them.
That's right.
But there are people out there.
It's not our job.
Yeah, I mean,
No, it's not
we
your
could
job.
hire someone else, but the intent, obviously, you've come this far. I want to say something to Jay, because I kind of subscribe, if there's an elephant in the room, we need to talk about it, or we're not really being open and honest. My hat is off to you, sir. I commend you. You are exemplary in your approach to this whole thing because you've already gone through all this. I know that. And I think Commissioner Camden knows that. You said it eloquently. I'd like to restate it. The reason we're here today is try to educate Tom and Bill. I don't think you needed a whole lot of education, but you were very diplomatic, and number one, I respect you for that, and I appreciate it. It would have been easy for you to say, deal with these
He
two.
was just as much of H a year ago as y'all are now. I mean, it's just, we've been through this once with him, and we granted the fact that this is not something that's real easy to grasp from all of our various backgrounds. When we started Broadband, I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm not electrical on this stuff. And I said, Dale, I'll learn something and we'll go along and I'll support you, because that meant our team was doubled from 1 to 2 people. So, yeah, and I've been asked, well, did you come out of the broadband world or IT world? No, Lord, no, I build airplanes,
Yeah.
I mean, it's, and that's been over the last 6 years. So, it is quite, we recognize it's a challenge to y'all's standpoint as to get this amongst everything else that is involved in the county's business. So, yes.
I agree. Let me help with that, though, because I take exception a little bit. It's not our fault we came in when we did, and so now here we are. It's not that it's that hard to understand, but there's a deadline where it was pushing us. It's a deadline that is calendar driven by a doggone grant process. And so in order to execute our job, that's the 3 of us, it's very important for us to understand it in order to commit their money to making this happen. Because Tom and I are going to pull it out of our pockets except by taxes, and which will happen if we fail and we have to maintain things by the county's money, or execute it, or go after other things. So it's very important to understand it. Even people that think they understand it may not. And like I told you up front,
Technically, I'm not concerned about providing the capability. It's, you know what, the O&M is the tail that makes the money for
any system.
I really agree with what you're saying, and I wish we had contracts in front of us saying, if you build it,
Right.
I'm sorry, but it's not the nature of this kind of beast. I think the risk to the county certainly is there. I don't think it's a huge risk, and I think the potential benefit is significant. So
There isn't anybody that'll disagree with that.
And I
And you
understand
can
this
go,
is it, and I agree.
never let, and I want to make sure the
just
public knows that.
don't know.
Nobody here does not believe, we all believe in broadband and capabilities. That's the ground we came from. That's where we want to go with the future. So make sure that's understood, because I think that's confusing too, because we came in when we did and people are misunderstanding whether we support broadband, and that's nonsense. We do. Every one of the three of us do. It's a matter of how and how you get there and with what risk to the taxpayer.
Now, Christie did say to me, I said to her, well, if we said no, we're not ready to commit at this point as a county, what's the likelihood that we could do this in the future?
They're not going to have it.
She said, slim.
With
that
them.
funding
It
mechanism.
doesn't
That's where the
mean
money-
you don't have a capability to.
Right, but that's
I mean, we
really
can
where
put
the
it-
money comes from. I mean, if DOLA isn't behind us, we're not gonna get
Right now,
federal
that's the
money.
case.
I mean,
And I'm afraid, you
we
know,
did.
how, if that decision not go forward, and I've mentioned this to both of you, is how it would affect, kind of spoil the water between DOLA and the county in total. Because we're all very dependent on DOLA's monies and their grants, and, you know, we certainly don't want to alienate them, or it's gonna be much broader than just the broadband.
But that's not the reason why we should do a project.
No,
But I agree that's something just to keep in the back of your mind.
and there is one thing that
I Lou.
that $20 million will be committed, and from multiple sources, there's no indication that there's going to be a bucket of more money into that broadband peculiar deal. So if we would delay it too long, then we're competing with other grant possibilities as it relates to anything else that we want to do that's dependent upon DOLA financing. And then that would, from what was explained to me, it would be a DOCC decision as to what the priorities are. And boy, that could really be interesting.
I got another pointed question for you, gentlemen. And some of the questions I've asked today came from Commissioner Flower. Some of the questions I've asked have come from other people that I have talked to, whether I wanted to or not. Did Centerline physically go to every proposed cell tower site of the 6 proposed?
5 of the 6, we didn't go down to Centennial because at the time they were down here for the 2 days, snow prevented that.
Okay. One of these towers is proposed not to be 100 feet. Is that the Centennial Tower?
I'm not aware that any of them are less than 100 feet.
One was 80.
I thought I read in a document that one of them was between 60 and 80 feet. But I couldn't find it to show you right now anyway, so that could have been
Should
one
be
of my
in that email.
nightmares.
It's in
Pardon?
that email that you sent me that,
It was or wasn't?
yeah, it was.
Anyway, it may not be obviously not a deal breaker. I was wondering about that. Whether the topography was so high that we didn't need that 100-foot tower, or would you anticipate, if everything moved forward, you'd place an order for 6 100-foot towers
I think there's
based on
reason for confirmation.
that center line
That's an
study?
easy
I
answer,
thought
yes.
yeah, that's your intent.
That's our intent. You know, there's all these factors that come into that. Human noise can be an issue that might cause it to be 80 rather than 100, but if it was a technical decision, it would be 6 100-foot towers.
Down in the Black Forest, it's got 10 branches on it, so it looks like a tree. It's a tall
Right,
tree.
we don't do that anymore. That was something that was done years ago.
These 6 towers, by design, are standalone, no guy wires.
That's correct. They're going to be engineered so that we felt that it would be more acceptable to the human eye to have a tower that was go straight up. And these are not the type of towers that you see between here and Pueblo when you're on Highway 50 that are these huge, humongous cellular towers. These are going to be towers that go straight up.
Yeah. 3-legged, I'm assuming.
Yes.
I don't know the correct terminology, but
Yeah, there'll be a little bit.
yeah. Because without them, I mean, we'd have to probably guy wire those.
They will not be lit.
If we, yeah, that was gonna be another question. They're under FAA
They're under
regulations to be lit.
199 feet or less, they don't have to be lit.
If the county, i.e. the Board of County Commissioners, moves forward with this project, and for some unknown reason, the entire bottom falls out of it. Worst case scenario, the county will end up owning 6 towers and any other assets tied to those, i.e. backup generation system.
You'll end up owning a contract to
And a
construct
20-year
6
contract.
towers. Well, there will be no, yeah, with a 20-year liability. I've never gone down the road where the bottom fell out, so I can't tell you what negotiation ability you would have with DOLA and or the feds about getting out from underneath that, but I'd be
Not
Okay,
worried about
let's
that so
back
much,
up.
it's just the actual requirement that you got hours, you gotta do something.
Let's back up. From getting out from under what?
Well, we get 2 grants for $2 million, and we get the private funding, and we get the help from our money, we got a pool of $2,052,000 and some odd dollars, and then we sign a contract with a design build firm that's going to do all this work and give us turnkey 6 towers ready to put equipment on it. And I don't, when you say the bottom falls out, that's a term that doesn't have any meaning to me, but I'll just use that term. And you can't go forward with the project.
Oh, okay, I misstated them, or I didn't communicate. The project's gone forward. We're at December 19th.
6
We're
towers
up
are
and
open,
running.
and they're just
We're
the
up and
prettiest
running.
things you've ever seen.
And everything goes to hell in a handbasket. These companies pull out, technology changes. Now we're getting satellite for not $300 a month, but $80 a month, whatever the scenario might be. Worst case scenario, we would end up owning these assets.
Yeah, they're yours.
And
And there's probably some salvage value.
Yeah, DOLA's not gonna come back and want their money back. EDA's not gonna want their money.
But you're creating a scenario, I always say to people, we got to have at least 1 foot on the ground. And you're creating a scenario that is so far removed from what would actually happen. You're talking about the fact that we're no longer going to need broadband, terrestrial broadband. We're going to move to a technology that even Elon Musk is decades away, if that would ever come to be, and we still have the latency issue, et cetera, even though it's diminished from what it is today. That by the end of 19, your scenario can't happen.
Okay, I meant after
let me ask this
2019.
question. Let me ask, just to follow up with what you're saying. We said maintenance cost, that's assuming they're working, is $3,600 a month. So if we took all the equipment off, because it never went on, because the bottom fell out, okay, it's going to be $3,600 a month or less,
Assuming they keep sending you a check every month.
even if they didn't. $3,600 a month. I'm not offsetting it by
Okay.
revenue, I'm just talking about the
Right,
extent. $3,600 a month is the risk that we're taking based upon Rio Blanco.
That's true. Your assessment is true.
Okay, let's take it another step further, and I meant after we were up and running. It could happen the first year, it could happen 13 years down the road. I wasn't saying it had to happen.
Okay, keep going.
If we had no generation of revenue, back to your point, correct me if I'm wrong in my thinking that on the front end of, let's say, a 30-year lifespan of these towers, is that reasonable? Have we talked about that or looked into that? Or
I'm sure
I
it could be
think
longer than that, but that's a
50
good
would be a
number.
little.
Yeah.
I was going to say 20 to 30, somewhere in there. On the front end of, let's say, the first 10 to 12 years, I would guess the maintenance and repair of the towers that we own, not the equipment from the internet service providers, but for the towers that we own, not including backup generation, probably going to be nil.
I talked to one of 4 certified tower erecting companies in Colorado that's a member of a national organization. According to their standards, there's a requirement for an annual inspection of the tower. Rust and damage type things, which, if I remember right, was $400 or $500 a tower.
That was not every year.
No, it was every 3 years. So, And we're not looking at the cheap end of it. We're looking at the corporate standard, things that would be safe for them. In fact, he was the only one that mentioned it, and there's a standard of tower people, which, that's structural, that's rust, that's paint, and then I think there's another thing that they would normally expect, that a tower, I think it was on the order of 10 years, depending upon its material, might need to be repainted or something like that. So it's, when it comes right down to that kind of management of the tower itself, granted, generators require, just like any of us that have a generator, that there's an annual servicing and stuff like that. And then there's that contingency. But considering our experience with Black Hills, which feeds Sangre de Cristo, and the things that Dale mentioned about how predictable our losses can be in this county, we want to be sure that they're equipped adequately to give us better broadband coverage and other things that might go with it than we're experiencing now.
So do you not know, is what you're saying, with the longevity of a tower? There's not a tower company that builds this kind of tower structure that would project in a certain environment that lifespan ought to be 20 years or 30?
I think.
And what
How many towers
are
do you
they?
see?
Do they all have to be painted? I don't know. It's just a question, and the reason I bring it, it's uncomfortable for me, coming from my background. My sort of trust me. There's a lot of trust me here, and even in how you put this together. And I'm not picking on it. I know that you guys are pressed for time. Seems like in the 7 years you've been doing this, or how many years did you say you've been trying to get this pushed?
Since shortly after, at least the start was shortly after the.
A lot of the details could have been asked, and I get the impression that it's a $2,056,000 number because there's $1 million available here and $1 million there, and you made it fit.
No, it's not
I
true.
didn't say it was. I'm just saying that's some of the appearance. And because when we ask, really, what is the site improvement? It's going to cost $44,000 X dollars. I don't really know what's behind that number. Other than when we've asked you some questions, and and some of the answers have been, well, trust me,
We will get that when we start negotiating. And I'm just surprised that there's a government agency that's willing to grant money, hoping that
we'll get details that'll fit, some of these. So these are good questions, and it helps us get comfortable with what the risk is we're going to assume.
Okay.
There is a risk.
Yeah.
Just briefly, man, educate me about Tier 1 and Tier 2 with DOTA, these mineral impact grants.
If I remember, and I had to read the definition, Tier 1 is up to, but slightly less than 200,000, or 2 million, I think.
Tier 1 up to 200,000.
Yeah, 200,000.
That's strictly what it's about. If you're a Tier 1 grant, it's under 200,000.
And that's got an opinion.
Money, there's not a
Okay, that's what that is. There's nothing else
Has
magic
nothing
about
to do
that.
with technical.
Okay.
But that's a good question.
avenue to get that money.
Okay. Personally, gentlemen, as a commissioner, there's something that irritates me about this whole thing. So I might as well tell you that. And it boils down to addresses versus residences, and then subsequent residents, which we know Custer County averages 1.8 people per resident. So we'll figure, okay, 2 people per resident, per residence. I get it. I understand the value of 6,600 addresses. I hope if I'm sitting in Golden that somebody doesn't put their thumb in my eye and say, tell me about addresses, Tom, versus residences. Because I think that number is pie in the sky. We can talk about potential build sites. We're talking 50 people a year. 50 new home starts a year in Custer County. I get that. But I just think that we're talking some ambiguous numbers when we're talking about addresses. even as a goal, we know we're never going to get all these addresses built out in the next 20 years if that's how we contract. So I just want you to know that I've indicated it to you a little, that I'm not comfortable talking about addresses. It's in the grant. If we go forward, I'll honor that. But I think this grant should have been written on the number of residences, the number of residents, and then go to an estimated population increase from there. I just think the addresses is a bill of goods.
Well, I'll put it this way. That's county-provided GIS information. We brought up the issue, and when it was explained to us, we went, But there's no better information that we're aware of, and I don't guess in your investigation that you found anything else. And yeah, it's, but we certainly, in the centerline solution, qualified that number and limited it, and we, we've done.
I'm not questioning the 6,600 as a number.
Yeah.
I'm questioning the whole approach as how we're going to write this grant.
Right, and I respect your position on residences only, but as a designer, I would not design a system for residents existing today when I'm building a 20-year project.
Well, I said
No, you
plus
project it out.
growth.
But what he's saying is
Not
if you're only
just
getting
the
50 a
residences,
year to
but-
increase it,
but,
where
you
do
know,
they go?
In talking
They could go
to
anywhere.
They could go
the
anywhere.
demographics office of DOLA, which I found to be consistent, especially when we're talking about Dolan grants, is use DOLA's numbers, and they will admit there's devils in the details, but they don't talk migration. They talk current population, aging, and such like that. Because talking to Akers, who was our input on this thing, and I said, you're not talking about these projections that we're talking about along the Front Range and for the whole state. He says, no, we don't. We only deal on facts, and it's basically what he said.
Right.
So it's a matter of even qualifying the numbers and understanding, because it's not as good as a lot of us would like to have. But as long as we get past the point of we're building it for the current population, which I know that's been a hard sell for some, I think that's the point, is we're going to grow.
Right.
And things are going to change whether we like it or not. And like your point, we need to have a plan, and we need to have a plan that we can control the growth as much as we can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope I communicated clearly, maybe I didn't, about not building this for current population, but current population plus estimated growth. And I don't relate that to 6,600 addresses.
It's hard to do.
Huge thing for me. I would like to make a couple of statements to you gentlemen and for the audience's benefit. I have been criticized, questioned, hollered at, yelled at. Why are you so against broadband? Mm-hmm. And I've tried in a reasonable fashion to say, what would make you say that? You're asking all these questions. I said, okay. On two specific occasions, I asked the individuals, what kind of a county commissioner would I be if I did not ask questions and voted on a motion of a few very vocal people? She didn't answer me, and I answered her for her. I said, I wouldn't be worth shooting. I want you two gentlemen to know this very honestly from me. Just because I ask these questions, and a lot of them have a negative slant to it, I get that, does not mean that I oppose this. But I've been sorely accused of that in this county. And that's part of the job, I get that. But in all honesty, I have not opposed it. I wasn't educated enough to oppose it. I have a master's degree in technology. Hell, that wasn't a drop in the bucket to prepare me for this kind of onslaught of information. So I just want you two to know that today. I'm not opposed to this. I've asked a lot of questions, and unfortunately some of those were probably a little negative in their connotation. But how else are we going to learn?
Well, I would suggest, regardless of what your opinions are in the next few days, there's certainly a degree of follow-up that I think we need to mutually decide. that we can incorporate within the grant program or maybe outside the grant program that can build a case, and like the information we sent you on that economist that does.
Out of Florida.
If that could put, if $9,500 could put a lot of people's concerns away from what the return to the county over the next 20 years would be, I think it would be money well spent. Because it covers a different realm of a different perspective on this than generally what is brought up from the technical aspect. And to the best of my knowledge, there's no community in Colorado that has availed themselves of that analysis yet. But
You think that's about 10 grand?
9,500 is what he forecast, which I thought for
Pretty reasonable.
oh yeah, and reading that you've been provided that Idaho report, it definitely looks at things like an economist. I jokingly, the first conversation I had with the guy was, well, we all realize if you get two economists, you get three opinions, but and he just laughed. But it does look at things different, and it also gives us some goals, that we could do, and I think that would satisfy some of the water here in the county too.
I've just got one other thing, and then I'll try desperately to be quiet the rest of the afternoon. And that is my unending displeasure with sensationalism about these kind of things. And I've heard it till I am just about have heard enough. I don't believe there's anybody at this table or in this room or in this county that can empirically say that if we do not vote in favor of this, our county is going to wither up, our school district's going to fold, those kids are never going to get the education they deserve, our economic impact in this county is going to go to zero, we're going to board up every business. That is all a bunch of sensationalism. I'll leave it with sensationalism. I understand that it's motivationally driven. It is a sorry way to make intelligent economic decisions in the long run based on this county or for this county. And I'm not accusing you two. I'm just saying I don't like it when I hear it. I can't control
We've been
it.
forcing it for 6+ years. We've been the brunt of that type of criticism, and it comes down to inaccuracies and lies.
So hopefully, this would be the world I guess I would like to live in. If I sit at this table and I try to be honest and open, then by God, I would expect everybody in this county to do the same and not be throwing out these ridiculous generalizations that stem from emotion. I can't qualify it any other way than that. I'm certainly willing to listen. But it's frustrating. I had a 19-year-old girl say, Mr. Flower, why don't you send out a survey and find out how many people have internet? Why don't you find out? I said, because I guess I'm not smart enough to have thought about that. Why in the hell didn't that happen 2 years ago, or a year ago, or 6 months ago? We'd have spent $1,000 to survey the 3,500 people in this county to find out how many people have internet. How many people don't want internet? I believe there's a certain amount of people in this county that wouldn't give a rat's behind if they had internet or not. I don't believe it's a significant number. Okay, I try to be realistic about it.
When earlier in this, we said, oh, that's the answer, survey. It answered, people didn't know, you'd say, what kind of internet support do you have? They didn't know.
No.
How much are you paying for it? They didn't know. And part of it comes to a term that we've used, you've got to have a certain degree of vision, whether it's satellites or airplanes or internet, and it's out there, it's going to happen, it's going to make a difference in degrees, God only knows how much, of the livability and of certain people. There are people that we already know are making good livings in this county off the internet they've got, but they'd all like to see it better. And
Thank you for that statement. They would all like to see it better.
And when I moved to this county, I thought it was great. because I had DSL. I couldn't get that in Fort Worth because the area I lived in was already built out. But, it's a matter of getting used to it. And, whether it's telephone or Zoom or all of this, we save a lot of miles for not having to drive to meetings by virtue of the internet that we've got. And it is, to some degree, it is an acquired taste. I've had people of my age that have said, "Oh, we don't need that." I said, "Are you a grandparent? Do you have grandkids that already know how to use their electronic device and they're not 10 years old?" Well, have they started sending your wife videos and stuff? Because I know personally that's how I had to upgrade some of my systems, because I got grandkids in Seattle and Houston, and they're crazy about it. They use it, and it to some extent it's an acquired taste. And
Do you guys think cell phone service is more or less important than broadband internet service in this county?
we had some bad experiences, a year ago with 911 and stuff like that. And again, it's like we talked about. I think they're complementary technology that we need improvements in all of them. And the good thing is with this towers initiative, we had the chance of raising up the coverage in the cellular sport. I know the reaction we got from riders with Ride to the Rockies, and I know the pitch that I gave to the couple of community meetings during that prep time was that, the Ride to the Rockies book said two of the questions were the riders would ask, they come into a town, they'd say, where's the Wi-Fi and what's the password? And I said, if they came today, they'll never come back to this town again because we didn't have it.
In fact, that was a requirement for Ride the Rockies to have cell service available to the riders. Yes, I agree, because I was with Westcliff, and when this was coming down, I was going, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? We don't have it down Main Street. And several people stood right up, and you guys stood right up, and next thing you know, it was there.
Well, and the thing about it is economic development did not desire to own that system. That was prior to overriding Senate Bill 152, and basically none of the three governments would talk to us because the general interpretation was that was against the law. Right. Now if you listen to the AT&T people, they say, oh no, that's not the case. But CCI and all that basically told your counterparts in the two towns that if we didn't override 152, then basically, it was hands off. Economic development at our cost financed the promotion to overcome those three elections. So, and we've got a plan beyond the towers that will take God only knows how many more years, but it could ultimately bring fiber to the home and fiber to the business in the two towns. And to keep our community competitive, and so that we're not discredited from the get-go because we don't have services, then...
Which is good, and you have to do that, Charles. You don't have to convince us. The bottom line is that's going to compete even with these towers. So we're going to be competing with ourselves.
No.
Because you're going to want to expand it. I do. I want to have it better. And who knows how we're going to get it. We don't know the details of the 5-year plan yet.
And
but we do know technology evolves. And I'm with Tom here. I got tired of being accused of not wanting broadband, and that is the furthest thing from the truth.
Well,
and there were rumors. It's $1 million thing. It wasn't. It was a $2 million cost.
And there's been rumors that Dale and I are making scads of money, and
part of it is because that's part of the disadvantage of living in the public eye. People need to know, and they hear things, and so we got to live with that.
Well, but you asked me why somebody's contribution to economic development is because we believe in this community, and we want it to be better.
And that's why Jay, Tom, and I are sitting right here. Not because it's for the joy of getting yelled at in the paper or by somebody calling me on the phone.
We've all got that.
Let me answer your question directly. It's a complementary service, broadband and cellular. It's not an either or, you have to have both. And that's our goal here.
We'll back up for just a second, and if you don't want to answer it, just say, you know what, another time, and that's fine. Back to the Main Street Wi-Fi. Is it still housed out of Myron Mullet's building?
Yes.
That's where the knock is.
Okay, and are you comfortable telling me why the bowling alley didn't want any part of that?
The bowling alley does host one of our towers. Why they don't offer Wi-Fi internally to the building, that's their decision. But if you look at the tower, the light in the far southeast corner, it's got the first of our radiation points on that tower.
All right.
Having been a bowler there for a long time, I asked, how come you don't let us have Wi-Fi? They said, because we want you to eat your dinner and get the heck out, not sit around and use your computer all day when paying customers comes in. It's an economic decision.
And it's a personal decision, because what they told me was they didn't want the kids malingering
That's what I was.
inside the building.
Tom Flower, the commissioner, anticipates some action being taken at our Board of County Commissioner meetings on Wednesday.
Thank you.
In all fairness, yes or no, it needs to be done. I understand that.
But we're not the only ones interested in that decision.
Because if you say no on Wednesday, we're going to blow up you're going to blow up the DOLA, we'll blow up the Fed.
Understood. Well done, gentlemen. Closing comments or questions or remarks?
I just make a comment since I've kind of been with this thing from the details of those things. I would tell you that I really was not a big fan of this when it started. The questions I asked multiple times were, what percentage of the county can't get broadband as we sit here right now? About 40%. If we put in 6 towers at $2 million, how much coverage are we going to get? We're going to double it to about 80%. So then, using a little math, I tried to decide how many people are actually availing themselves that are available at the 40%. I tried to extrapolate how many people will use it with 80. And then I came out and I decided this is going to cost about $27,000 per person who's going to get broadband. Is this a good investment? And I was hung up on this for a very long time until it dawned on me that we're not a business, we're a service. And I go back to, and I'll make the same statement I made when we started. Broadband is really important so we can get economic development here without a footprint. And it's exactly what it would do. It'll bring people here. Oh, you got broadband? And you're in the woods, in the mountains? This is wonderful. This is what I want to do. But I think if we save one life because we have a cell phone connection so someone can get into an emergency service that couldn't do it before, it's worth every penny. I think the risk that the county's taking is probably minimal. And even as you said, if the entire bottom fell out, based on the numbers we're guessing, we're talking about $3,600 a year, a month, I'm sorry. I'm not telling you I am voting yes, A, because I can't, and B, because it's inappropriate at this time. But I am overwhelmed with information. I've assimilated as best I can. I grant you there are many, many, many question marks that I wish we had answers to. That's what you do. I mean, you take a chance based on the best information you have available. We have models that we can follow, Ria Blanc and others who have been successful. And I think the timing's right. I also absolutely agree with you on the sensationalism. I mean, I've been accused of God knows what, especially with this broadband thing. How can you be a supporter of something that, is going to 29 more people or 100 more people are going to use that kind of ridiculous, and I just listen to them and most of them I nod and smile. The sensationalism needs to go, needs to get out. I don't want to see it. That's another here and there. So I'll say if nothing else happens, I just want to say thank you to you two for an unbelievable amount of work you have done. how much have come out of your own pockets to get this done, and I know there's been a lot. Whether this passes or not, you have stepped up to the county without any county job, without any county income, and probably vilified by a lot of people going, oh, that's Charles and Dale, who just want to make another buck. I've heard it too. Okay, and I would say, you guys just don't know, do you? And I challenge them. But the bottom line is, I really appreciate you've stepped up to try and help this county, and I hope it passes if it does, and if it doesn't, that's the way it is. So I thank you both.
Thank you. Wednesday is the proof of the pudding.
I would guess, I can't
Not
say
necessarily.
that. Not necessarily, but
It's on the agenda.
I don't think it is on the agenda.
No, but we got
Let's put it on. Because I agree. It's time.